I'm so very pleased to see everyone. This has been a really amazing month. I can't speak strongly enough about how amazing everyone on the Gauntlet has been. I really thank you guys so much for being involved in this and just for being an awesome community that I have been really blessed. I think and fortunate to be able to join. So, right. I actually have a thing that I get to read. So, first, hey, wait a minute, Tomer, are you wearing a red scarf? A foulard rouge. Oh, that's brilliant. Congratulations, Tomer. You can be first player if you want.
Oh, okay. Sure. I win.
First player, the only real responsibility you'll have as first player is you'll get to pick characters first and then last. And you'll be the one responsible for setting the prologue scene. So other than that, it's not too much. But I always like to ask because you never know. Somebody might be like, I don't know, I don't want to be the first person. So that's fine.
I'll risk it.
So good. I like that attitude. That's very communal of you, citizen. This is a game about the Paris Commune, a brief revolution in 1871. We will each be portraying two characters who lived in Montmartre, a working-class district of Paris, during the Commune. While we can change the details of what happened in history, the general outline of events will remain the same. Paris will be attacked by the French army, and thousands, including many of our characters, will die. So I feel embarrassed to have to do a cat's talk with Jason in the room, but I'm going to give it a try, even though I'm using the outdated version. But the general concept of this game is to play revolutionaries in a freeform setting, and we use some cards to help drive everything. We want to explore why so many of these poor and working class people went defiantly to their deaths and try and come to grips with what they wanted to get from their revolution, and to explore their emotions, doubts, triumphs, joys, and tragedies. So this game is very serious in tone. There's a great deal of tragedy that is going to involve during it. It will be more enjoyable if we try and keep this in mind. However, the Commune was also a period of joy and liberation for many. Exploring that aspect of it will enrich in our story. And finally, this game will try and teach us enough history about the period to be able to play our characters honestly. We will explore death, poverty, and loss. There are children and sex workers who are character in the game. We will have a discussion of any lines we don't wish to cross regarding these subjects, and we will have that discussion now. So, we're formally using the X card in Lines and Veils, mostly because of the ones I know how to use with no thought. So, if you haven't used Roll for your party before, there is a little X card button. And if you hit that, we'll see it and we can stop. Everyone here is familiar with the X card, or I need to pull up that and make that explanation? Are we good? Okay. So, lines and veils. This especially gets important because we do have children in the game and children can die. So that is a thing to be aware of. Is there anything anybody needs to get out there right away?
I prefer to keep violence against children and animals off screen. I don't mind like talking about like having it be a thing that happens. I prefer not to describe it. So.
I might be a little harder on the line side of that. It's that's a subject that tends to like make me leave media alone if it comes up. And I know, you know, I don't want to completely subvert the themes of the game, but it's a very troublesome topic for me.
Okay. I think I don't think that there's a problem working with that, or yeah. Okay, good. Okay. So
I would just say for Jeremy,
sure.
definitely if like, I mean, I don't anticipate us going across that line, but obviously, you know, if we start to head toward it, then just to let us know, and of course the X card can kind of help there. But I don't personally have any issues with any of those lines.
Okay. All right. Good. I don't have any problem with any of those. So we have 5 people, which is great because I've never tried to play this game with 5. With 4, I know what to do. With 5, I have no idea. So it'll be fine. We're going to each have 2 characters. There are a total 12 characters in the game. That obviously means we're going to have 2 characters that aren't going to be in the game. I think the best way to do that right now is just we're going to let the chips fall where they may. And if you look on the roll for your party room, there's a nice R map, and also there's a Google drawing I did. So if you want to let that guide choices of characters, that's certainly a plausible way to do things. Just so you know, if it ever comes up, we need a character that none of us is portraying, just ask somebody. We're going to play the game in a number of rounds. We'll start with a prologue, that'll be the exact date the commune started, and then play 3 rounds, the last of which is the Bloody Week, during which the army will invade Paris, and one of our characters probably will die. I say probably because it's also possible one of the characters may be dead before that happens. If so, you don't get to kill a character. You have to go to the end. In the end, the surviving characters will have to make a terrible choice about what the commune meant to them and whether or not they want to cooperate, flee, or remain defiant. Meantime, okay. So we're going to play the game in a series of scenes. On your turn, if it's your turn, you get to set the scene. By which I mean you say where it takes place and who is in it. It is good form that your character be in there, one of them. If you have a situation where you would need both your characters in it, again, just ask somebody to play one of the other characters. When it is your turn, you have narrative authority, which just basically means that if there's any question as to what happens next, you have the final say. You can also move the scene forward. You can call for flashbacks. You can, change the time and place suddenly. All these are acceptable. Be creative, think cinematically, all those fun things, or think novelistically, whichever one. If you want to join a scene and it's not your turn, ask the person with narrative authority either before or maybe raise your hand and say, I have an idea, can I come in? Likewise, if we want to have an extra scene or 2 in a round, that is totally okay. Just ask the table, make sure there's consensus, and join in. Just play, communally. That is the theory here. I don't have any formal narrative mechanism for taking control of the narrative, like if you've played Montsegur 1244. I think this works better for this game. And hey, we're going to have some historical readings. I promise they will be brief and not too tremendously terrible. Okay, so I think the order of this is going to be... the fountain pen is out of ink. We're going to start with Tomer, Jeremy, I think. Yeah, sure. Jason, Emily, and then me. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw 3 characters from the characters deck. Tomer, you're going first, so you get to have first choice.
Are we going to see pick a character? Roll for party?
Yeah, yep, cool. I'm going to do that in a second. The best way to do this so that we can keep the room from being cluttered is you can right-click on the card and open it up in a separate tab, and that way you'll have it available, and I can, then you can delete it, or I'll clear it at the end.
Kat, can you say the last?
Also, if you
can you say the last 10 seconds again? You broke up just briefly.
Oh, okay. The best way to preserve your character card is to just right-click on it because it's just an image, open it up in another tab, and that way I can clear the room later because I will. There's so many tricks in this game that I tend to delete them out when we're done with them. Also, if you have the rule PDF open, they're all in the back of the rules PDF. All right, so let's see what's going to happen here. And I want to take a screenshot this time. I did it again. I always do this. Hold on. I always forget that I left hidden draws turned on. There we go. Can everyone see these?
Yes.
Okay. So we have Louise Michel, the red version of Montmartre, a school teacher and revolutionary. We have Jean, a member of the National Guard, so a soldier and assistant butcher. And Tariq, who is a Spahi cavalryman from Algeria who fought against the Prussians and stayed on in Paris.
Oh, tough decisions.
Yes.
I think I will grab, I'll just go with Jean, actually.
Very cool. Okay, I'm just gonna squinch him out of the way. And our next contestant is Jeremy. The new character is Leonard, a former political prisoner who now owns a wine shop.
Who were the two other possibilities? I'm sorry. Trying to switch back and forth on the iPad is a little complicated.
That's okay. Yeah, I can imagine. Tariq, a Algerian cavalryman who fought against the Germans, and Louise, a school teacher and revolutionary.
I'll go for the wine shop owner.
Cool. I like Leonard. Let me get him out of the way. Okay. Jason. We have Louise, Tariq, and now Felix, a poet of proletarian leanings and sometimes journalist.
I'm going to go I'll go with Louise.
Beautiful. Cool. Hey, Felix, where'd you go? Ah, they're there. Hello. Okay, so Emily, the new person we have up is Dominique. She is a midwife and physician, Martinique, from an old free family of color on Martinique, and she lives in Montmartre.
Emily, are you talking? I don't hear anything. I don't know if anybody else does.
Oh no, I didn't know you were talking, Emily. Sorry, I thought you were just reading all the cards.
You're not muted in Hangouts, but maybe you're muted on your mic or something.
Yeah, possibly scroll up to the little gear thing on the Hangout window. If you check that and look at see what your mic input is.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we got you.
Yes, sweet. All right. If I could choose Dominique.
And Kat, now you're muted if you're talking.
Yeah, I try and aggressively mute myself, but sometimes not too aggressively. Okay. Let's see. Right. Oh, Lodoiska. Lodoiska, is a Polish Amazon. Is the lover of Amanda and a heavily armed member of the National Guard. So I have this fun thing now. I've basically played everybody, so it's like, who do I want to play again? Who could I spin? I'm gonna spin poor Felix. Poor kid. Okay, so we're gonna snake back, which means, yay, I get to choose again. Sorry, but we'll just see. Okay, Marguerite is a dressmaker, the wife of Leonard, and I think I'll Marguerite. Make it nice and easy. Hey, where is everybody? Did we not come out? Okay. There we go. Next up is Emily, and we have added Camille, the child of Amanda. Camille, it should be noted, is not a gender in French. And in fact, in this time, it was more common as a male name. So Camille can be any gender you want.
Can I choose Camille?
Absolutely. Let me just move this slightly. There's Amanda. Okay. Jason, we have added Amanda, the prostitute, mother of Camille, and lover of Lodoiska.
I'm definitely playing Amanda, so like, no questions asked about that. Flashback to Montsegur.
I'm having
Dreamation
Yep,
2017.
absolutely. You know, I've meant to say to you for a while that I really liked what you were doing with the whole envy of conspicuous consumption / single white female thing that was going on in that game.
It's a fun game. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, there was rather more death by Templar than is normal for one of those, but I think somehow there's Marie. Okay. Oh, okay. So that's what happened. The cards are all over the place. Let me see if I can clear this up slightly.
I'm trying to catch up the image board too, where we can type our names and stuff. That's handy, I think.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Real quickly, who's your
I have a little. Oh, great. I'm sorry?
I was asking Tomer, who are you playing? Who was your first one that you picked?
It was Jean up in the top right.
I'm going to make you red in honor of your scarf.
Sweet.
Okie dokie. So I have accidentally deleted Marie. So I'm going to just let everyone know that for whatever the hell, Marie is still out there. Marie is the daughter of Leonard and Marguerite. And if you want, hold on one sec. I can give you the direct link. Maybe, if I can remember which character number she is. Anyway, if you want to choose Marie, I'll get you the card. Not a problem. These are technical issues that happen from time to time. But we are back to Jeremy. We have Lodoiska, Josephine, and Tariq. Josephine is the wife of Jean, and she works as a washerwoman and stretcher bearer. And I never figured out the right way to say this on the card, but she is one of the people that was eventually sentenced to death for burning down Paris.
I want her.
She didn't do it, but Josephine's awesome. She is all kinds of cool. Okay, Tomer, we've got Ludowiska, we've got Tariq, and we have Marie, who's not up because I screwed up, but those are your 3 choices.
I was definitely leaning toward Tariq, but that was before Ludowiska showed up. So, oh man.
That would make us lovers, I'm just saying, so.
All right, Ludowiska it is.
Everybody likes Ludo.
Sorry, Tariq.
That's
Next time.
fantastic. No, Tariq is cool. Yeah. So good. Let me actually look at this Google thing if we've done it.
It's super handy. I just need to fill in Emily's the first character Emily chose and the first character Jeremy chose, and both of yours.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, my first player was Dominique.
Dominique, okay. Emily, you're an orange.
Right.
Okay. Cool.
Oh, Catherine, is there a way? So all of these cards. Oh, I see. It looks like they have numbers, right? Do you know what number Ludowiska is? I can go around.
I can.
Okay, right. I'll figure it out.
I can do you. Oh, hold on a second. What I can do. Yeah, I should have thought that a long time ago. Yeah, there you go. Let me.
Found her. It's okay.
In the chat room, I have posted up the directory that has all those images. Unfortunately, they're numbered, so I don't know which one is which, except Louise is number 1, and I think Camille is number 12. But if you need to find your character, you can go hunt and peck through those, or you look it up in the PDF. I think the map is getting done, right? Here we go.
Yeah, this one, I'll link to it here in the chat too for folks in case anyone needs it. I just need Jeremy, besides Josephine, who are you playing?
Leonard.
Okay, you're coming in super dim. Check your mic.
I don't have a mic. I have an iPad.
Okay, maybe we can turn you up. Let's see.
That's probably the problem. I'm sorry. I'm totally new to this. And,
no, it's okay. I can actually hear you better now. So whatever you just did actually helped a lot. So
I think my hand was over the microphone.
Okay.
I'll turn it the other way.
Okay.
Okay. So sorry, it was Josephine.
So now
Leonard.
Anonymous koala. Yeah, this is actually going to be super helpful because now we get to do the part that is both killer tech and slightly complicated. We're going to all draw some questions. So there it is. I've got it on the roll for your party. Let me first get rid of the characters deck. Done. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is click on Enable Hidden Draws, and then click on the Pull from Questions button and select 2. So we're each going to get 2 questions. And I like to keep them face down as a safety issue because there are some tough questions in there, and sometimes they're just not relevant, or sometimes you're like, I don't want to deal with this. So you can discard it, and no one needs to be wiser. I'm going to pull 2 here. Now, some of these questions say things like you. When that's the case, you should answer the stuff about you for one of your characters. There are some questions are going to ask you to name another character, or they will name another character. In that case, it's up to you. You can ask that character's player what they think. You can decide it. Just kind of work it out in the best way that seems to make sense.
Do we just pull these cards willy-nilly, or is there a sequence that we need to go in?
How do you mean? You can draw your cards now if you want, and I think we'll just ask them in the same order that we started in. If that works for everyone, or I can go first and we'll reverse it. Yeah, why don't we do that? Let's make Tomer have to go last this time. Okay. Oh, wow. That's so weird. And now I need to think about whether or not I want to dump one of these. I think I do. Yeah, I don't want that. This one I don't like. Oh, cool. Yeah, this one works much better. Okay. Let me pop this up so everyone can see it, hopefully. There we go. Who did Felix write a poem about? What do they think of the poem, and why did he choose this character as a subject? Oh, this is fantastic. I think he wrote about Louise. It's super easy and obvious. He chose Louise because she inspires him. She was his teacher, and he just to him, she is the revolution personified. But I don't know what she thinks of that. So, Jason, you want to field that question for me?
I think that Louise is uses this sort of like, I think she like leans into like being this character of the revolution, this like passionate, charismatic figure, to basically keep everyone inspired and to manipulate them and control them. But I think she herself finds it a little bit like wow, like it's kind of pathetic that you're so like into this, that you're so like, like enthralled by this person and their personality, right? So for her, I think like basically I pretended to be like incredibly like inspired, and yes, we are all together. But I think secretly I kind of feel like I will use your passion to achieve my own ends. So,
wow.
Does that make sense?
No,
that's too many words to say.
Awesome and astonishing.
So yeah.
That's both awesome and astonishingly cynical.
That's what as it goes sometimes, I guess. So.
Okay, that's beautiful. I've added rope poem about Louise to the map so we can remember. Let me just get rid of this guy. There we go. Emily, why don't you choose one of your questions?
Okay.
And ask away.
Mine are the ones that are outlined in color, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. Mine is, who does Louise suspect of betraying the commune? Is that character aware of her suspicions? And I think probably Margaret.
Oh dear, what did I do this time?
As long as you're all right with that.
Absolutely.
And I don't I don't know. Is Margaret aware of her suspicions?
You know what? This time I'm going to say yes. And the reason is that her husband is a former political prisoner, and she helped her keep her family together during all those years, including doing things to get him out of prison. So she is more than familiar with this game, and I think she's just doing a great job right now of fencing with Louise about it.
So just to clarify, I believe, or Louise believes, that Marguerite is a traitor, right? Is that how that went? Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Speaking of you, Jason, it's your turn to ask a question.
Yeah. Let's see. My card says, choose a character that one of your characters is trying to convert to their beliefs. Ask their player if they are interested or if they resist. And I think I'm going to go with Ludoviska. And it's going to be I think Margaret is trying to convince Lodowiska that that the commune is nonsense and we're all just going to be killed. And if that doesn't conflict too much with the basic setting, Cat, and that basically, like, this is crazy. Like, this is totally crazy. I need to get out of this. So, and the card, I think there was more to the card too. Are you interested in that, or are you resisting this? Are you a true believer?
Oh no, that is totally okay. The backstory for Leonard is that he fought in the Revolution of 1848, which did not turn out well. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, so that was for Amanda to Lodowiska. So Lodowiska, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm totally cool with that. I think that works.
Well, it's like, do you think, are you like receptive
right.
to this, or are you like, no, I'm a freedom fighter or whatever?
I think I think Lodowiska has a reputation of being of towing the line, of saying, yes, I'm a freedom fighter, and kind of showing that persona amongst the general rabble. But then Lodowiska is not from here, right? So she also so when she was also in the Polish revolt, right? So I'm almost thinking that maybe Marguerite, like in them talking over some time, Marguerite
it was Amanda to Lodowiska.
Oh, Amanda to Lodowiska.
Okay. I may have misspoke, but yeah. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I got it. Then that makes more. Okay.
We're lovers.
I think that's yeah, and I mean, Amanda basically. I think Lodowiska looks at it as, this is the concern that my lover is giving me, because she wants to make sure that we don't go down a road that's going to lead to death, right? And to some degree, I think she's probably heard Lodowiska talk about the Polish revolt, and so there's a part of her that is a little bit cynical, but there's also the part of her which is, no, this is the fight that's worth fighting for. So I think that's why Amanda has to try to convince, right? It's not that easy where she's just like, yeah, okay, you're right.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, Kat, we can't hear you.
That is the price for using the manual mute up my headset. Jeremy, why don't you ask a question now?
Sorry, this is an involved process. Can you hear me right now?
Yes.
Jeremy, you can just stay off video too if you want to just do audio. If you don't want to.
Okay, that.
Totally fine.
Let me see. Who was a confidential police informant for the Imperial Police before the Commune? Name a character who knows this secret and ask their player why they haven't said anything about it. Now, the person who was a police informant, is that another PC? Or is that an NPC, or does it matter?
Probably should be a PC, but no one's ever asked me that question before. So, yeah, I think it should be one of the characters.
Okay, because that seems like a lot of power for me to have over their character, but I guess that's the way it works.
Go for it. I'm here for it.
I'll just make sure they're cool with it.
I mean, I think. Okay, now I've lost all my characters. I mean, my impulse is to go with Luis was a police informant.
That's really good. I like it.
That's what I think. And I think Felix knows that, despite the fact that he's written poetry about her. And so I want to know, why has he created this persona for her?
Boy, that relationship's super complicated now, isn't it?
Oh, I like that. So why hasn't Felix said anything? Felix, yeah, you know what? Let's not play Felix as all that innocent. Sure, there were plenty of pretty militant socialist organizations around in this period. Felix understands 100% that the revolution is a thing that needs to be financed and protected, and Louise told him that she was informing on the police as a, to be the obvious mole that they know about so that she could feed them false information and collect money to bribe people. And that's what she said, and that's what he believes. I have no idea if that's true or not, but that's what she said, and that's what he believes.
Awesome.
And I guess Tomer, you get to ask both your questions in a row. Congratulations.
Yay. Catan style. I like this Catan style thing. All right. So first of all, who is Amanda's best customer? And why does she ask for more money from them? So Amanda's best customer, I'm going to say, is my other PC, Jean. Right? And I think that's, I want to say that's a secret between them. I don't think Lodoisco would know about that. But I don't know. I mean, would Amanda, like, I'm not sure exactly how their relationship works as far as the, the fact that she's a prostitute, and like, does Lodoisca maybe not want to know, who she's with, kind of thing, or?
I'd like to throw out that maybe it should be Leonard or another character, because it feels like there could be a good triangle there with Lodoisca, and you're playing both of them. So
that's true.
I guess somebody can just play the other character.
No, that's a good point. I like that. Okay, so yeah, let's do. Yeah, let's do Leonard. I was tempted to do Josephine though, but let's do Leonard. And I'm going to say she charges him more. I mean, it sounds like, again, you guys can feel free to jump in, but obviously he's got money, right? Compared to everyone else.
Yeah, I think it could. I mean, it could be a real. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jeremy.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say it could be as simple as Leonard's got money, and I'm into that, right? and already I've expressed like I think this is ridiculous, right? Like this is just we're going to get killed. So, yeah. We haven't got any of Emily's characters out there yet. We need to find a connection.
Yes, and I actually don't know if my next question will do that. So my other question is, what gender were you raised as? What gender are you now? And what gender do others perceive you as? And I'm going to say that's with Lodoiska. I'm going to say that I'm going to say, you know, growing up in Poland, she associated herself more with kind of like being a boy, right? As far as that time, and kind of got away with it for a very long period of time where, you know, everyone would kind of mistake her for being, you know, a boy when she was young, and she kind of, you know, would act like it, right? In that setting. And as she got older, she found that she was, you know, attracted to women and kind of, but like she couldn't really, I think, you know, the way I see her in that place and time in Poland, she wasn't, you know, like that was, you know, maybe it was unacceptable. So she wasn't able to kind of like figure that out, right? Or even figure out what it was that she was going through one way or the other. And then when she's got to Paris, I think she realized that, you know, I think she now accepts that she feels that she is a woman, but she likes other women, right? But she still gets mistaken for being a male a lot just because of her physique. And, you know, she wears her hair really short or like other kind of signs that she, you know, she makes herself look kind of like you would expect, you know, a man to look in Paris at that time.
I'm going to summarize that with Butch AF.
I think that's what I was going for. Yeah, thank you.
All right, Jeremy, your second question.
Sorry, while I down, takes a moment for this to load. Well, this is obviously Leonard's question. What did you do that landed you in prison? Who did you meet there? So I think Leonard killed a police officer. He saw a police officer manhandling you know, someone who he knew from the neighborhood, and in a fit of rage he clobbered him with one of his wine bottles and killed him. He didn't even mean to. It wasn't like a premeditated like act of resistance or anything like that. It was just it was something done in the moment, and I think that might have actually catalyzed his political views. Oh, and who did he meet there? Mm-hmm. Who did he meet there? I'm sorry. Wait, who are Emily's characters again? I'm sorry, I have a hard time seeing.
I have Camille and Dominique.
And Camille's a child, but Dominique
Camille's a child.
So like in theory, like if Dominique was the person he was protecting or whatever.
I'm mean, there are ways he could have met Camille in prison, I guess. You know, Camille could have been bringing food in and stuff, doing odd jobs. I don't know. I mean, it's not impossible. It's merely slightly implausible.
You know what? I think he met Dominique
Mhm.
in prison. However, do I need to clarify more about that, or does Dominique need to clarify more about that?
How do you like it?
I mean, I think
I'm
I'll turn
curious
that
why
over to
Dominique
Emily.
was in prison.
Yeah. Does Emily have a suggestion?
I'm thinking.
Alright.
I mean, she could have been a physician.
Right. That was sort of what my idea was, that she might have been a physician brought in to treat prisoners.
That makes sense.
Are you cool with that idea?
Sounds good.
Sweet.
Wait, maybe you also were the doctor who. Well, I don't know if they would bring in a doctor to pronounce the policeman dead or something like that, but
Huh.
I don't know.
Oh,
That sounds
you
kind of
can-
cool to me.
Okay. Why don't we swing back to Jason?
Okay, my last card says, I love this because, okay, so my last card says, what was your religious upbringing? What made you lose your faith? And can I pose the question to another character, Kat? Like, is that allowed, or does it have to be about one of mine?
Theoretically, it should be about one of your characters since it says you, but I mean, it's not a suicide pact. If everybody else is okay with it, you can totally.
Well, I mostly
do
want
that,
to. I
I
want to
guess.
aim it at Camille, the child, because, well, because Amanda's already got a bunch of hooks anyway, and so does Louise. So I was just going to say, like, what did Amanda raise you? What was your, or maybe your father? How did they raise you, and what made you question that? Right.
I mean, I haven't really thought a lot about Camille's father as so much being in their life so much.
Right.
So I'm not really sure. I don't know. What would Amanda have?
I guess the yeah. So I guess a better way of posing the question would be like, maybe I did raise you to be a good Catholic girl, and you something is making you question that. I think there might be a too obvious answer with like Amanda's profession, but
no, yeah, that was the one thing I was thinking, that just the entire sort of situation there.
Yeah. I mean, I like that personally, but it is sometimes the easiest answer is the best answer, I guess. But
I don't know. Do you have any other ideas? Because I'm leaning towards that.
I like that. I mean, I think I just mostly want there to be like a reason for us to have like some conflict, right? Like some kind of like, you know, like just problem with each other sometimes. So.
Right.
Can I offer a bit of input?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess Amanda is the skeptic in all this. Never mind.
I guess, and also another question is, how old is Camille, Emily? Like,
I think the player cards say that they're 12. Yes, 12.
Okay. So definitely old enough to have like some independent thought and agency, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And speaking of which, Emily, you are up.
Hmm. Hmm. Can you hear me now? All right, I muted myself. Whoops. Okay. One of my questions is, who has Dominique treated for a medical condition? What was it, and what complication did she discover? I'd kind of like to have it be Jean, but I'm not sure exactly what medical condition or what complication could come from that.
I wonder if it's could it be something that, like, you know, maybe I'm terminally ill and didn't know it or don't know it, or it could be something that affects my relationship with somebody else, like, I guess my wife there, right? Josephine.
Having one of the freedom fighters be terminally ill is kind of interesting.
You think maybe so you were treating me for something, but then maybe found like something
Right.
that looked kind of like a tumor or something, you know, where you suspect like, ooh, I've seen this before, this doesn't end well.
Right. Okay. So, do you think you would know? Did I tell you about it? I wonder.
I think maybe you would tell me. I don't know, like what kind of physician is Dominique? Like,
she's mostly a midwife, and just a physician for the neighborhood women. It says so.
Oh, that's perfect. Is Josephine pregnant? That's Jeremy's.
Maybe she is now.
Fine by me.
So maybe if we've got Josephine being pregnant, then I think yes, maybe like you would have told Jean, but I don't think Jean. I think Jean probably begged you not to tell Josephine, right?
Okay.
So nobody else knows.
Oh, I'm curious why that is. Like, why don't you want Josephine to know?
Well, so I mean, maybe just you know, one, I don't know how long I will last. I don't want to, you know, part of it is also, you know, I don't want her to be worried about the baby. Maybe there's so much going on right now, like,
oh, like she might
adding
not want
this
to bring
other
the baby
thing
into the world if
that'd be
knowing
good.
that. Yeah, I like that actually. It's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, my plan was to play Josephine as like the rage machine, hates the bourgeoisie, hates her situation in life, wants to burn it all down. And maybe Jean is just afraid if she knows that she is losing him, that she will just go AWOL.
Well, and also there's a really interesting thing there of like, if you knew you were pregnant, would that change your behavior? Would that change your outlook on life? Right. And I like that. Like, so it's like super complicated, right? With the dying husband and then like the age machine and the possible baby. I know there's a lot of good stuff there. So.
That is seriously beautiful. Okay, I get the last one. Right. So, name one of your characters. Name a character one of your characters in love with, and ask their play if they return their affections. And I was originally going to do this about Felix because, boy, Felix has a lot going on. And then I realized this is 100% more awesome if I say Marguerite is in love with Dominique. And does Dominique return these affections?
I don't know. I don't think so. Because I was sort of thinking of Dominique as very, like, serious, not so much about the whole revolution, but more about her job and sort of her job that she had within the commune. And I keep thinking of her as a bit not like not super one-sided, but sort of thinking too much about that to worry much about personal things, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, 100%. What? So too busy for. Got it. Oh, this is great. This is terrible. This is beautiful. Okay, wow. We've got a wonderful mess coming up. I think the thing to do is going to be to take a break in a second, but one thing I didn't kind of say when I was talking about the scenes, and I like to bring it up. So this game has a lot of political stuff in it. When you see the placards come out, all these things are super political. Therefore, I have discovered that the best practice seems to be don't worry about it. You don't need to intentionally bring up the politics. The politics are gonna happen. It's never not happened. So just worry about your characters and their emotions and their messy situations, like people normally do anyway, and the politics will happen. So that has tended to produce a better game. Okay, why don't we take 5? So 808 or 809 if you're with me on the East Coast, and I will see you all shortly. The bad news is we have to do a little history homework. I swear to God, I tried to get these down as short as possible. But we will have to suffer through this. I hope you all have the PDF. If you don't, I can text you the stuff, but if it's easier, you get the PDF to page 21 in your hymnal. And we're going to read some. We're going to set a prologue scene, which, by the way, is set on March 18th, 1871. So that means, folks, that if you are lucky enough to go to Breakout and be in the Sunday morning session of Red Carnations I am going to facilitate, you will be playing on the 147th anniversary of the beginning of the Paris Commune. So I will start. Prologue. They've come for our guns. March 18th, 1871. The facilitator reads. This game is about the Paris Commune, a working-class revolution in 1871. We'll be playing characters that live in Montmartre, one of the most radical districts of Paris. For 72 days, the Commune was one of the most progressive governments in history. During its brief lifetime, it tried to create a state with workers' rights, free education, and the liberation of women as its foundation. The conservative government, headquartered in Versailles, invaded Paris at the end of May and crushed the Commune. Paris in the 1870s. Paris was the most important city in continental Europe. Under Emperor Napoleon III, nephew of the more famous Napoleon, the center of the city had been rebuilt with broad boulevards and chic restaurants and boutiques, the capital of humanity. But in the poor neighborhoods on the outskirts, like Montmartre, unemployment was high and the people lived in conditions without running water, indoor plumbing. Conditions were ripe for another of the once-a-generation Parisian revolutions. And what the hell, I'll spare you all and read the next bit because we don't have a Marie. The Franco-Prussian War. In 1870, the emperor was lured into a war against Prussia and its German allies. The war was a disaster. The emperor and most of the army were captured in September. A republic was proclaimed and tried to continue the war. The Prussians besieged Paris. The winter was cold and food ran out. The rich ate animals from the zoo, the poor dogs and rats. The only way to get mail out of the city was by balloon. Finally, the republic surrendered to the Germans. And Jeremy, though, I think we just lost Homer. Oh, he's back.
I'm good. Sorry, don't stop for me. Thanks, though.
Okay, so Leonard's player reads The Soul of the Republic. Did we lose Jeremy? Or?
He's muted. Jeremy. Oh, there he is.
No, I'm here. I actually have been trying to find the PDF, but
It's okay.
it's in Hangouts. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have
Don't worry
tried
about
to-
for you. The Soul of the Republic. Parisians felt betrayed. Despite the large number of troops of National Guard, a militia that was often the only paying work during the siege, the government never supported them for an attack against the Prussians. When the national elections returned to a parliament with a monarchist majority, Paris felt sure that the Republic would fall, and any hope they had for a more equal society be destroyed. Several insurrections broke out. The battle for the soul of the French Republic was about to begin. I read the next part too. The government, now led by Adolphe Thiers, agreed to pay 5 billion francs in reparations. The Germans remained dug in east of Paris. The National Guard's cannons in Montmartre had been bought by its inhabitants, not the government, but Thiers ordered their seizure to prevent insurrection. Before dawn on March 18, 1871, soldiers of the French army came to take the guns, but were confronted by a crowd of Montmartre's women. The commander ordered the soldiers to shoot them, but they arrested him instead. The National Guard took over Paris and ordered elections for a new government for Paris and France, the Commune. Shall I read the play out the scene stuff too?
Yeah, sure, why not? Let's see if it works.
Play out the scene on March 18th, 1871, just after
just after the soldiers.
Just after soldiers have executed their commander, General Lecomte. Do the Communards accept his execution by his own men? Did anyone speak in his defense? Do any of the characters oppose the creation of the Commune? Characters cannot die yet. The scene is set by the player with flag card. After this scene, move on to part 1.
So the flag card would stand with Tomer right now.
All right. So I'm kind of picturing, a very kind of like a large square in somewhere in the center of Montmartre. The general has just been executed, right? And I kind of see when the soldiers were sent here to seize the guns. I think there was some warning so that in the background we see big boxes and other pieces of furniture that were put out into the street to make kind of like a barrier. There's some folks with holding different types of guns. Who were going to, possibly lay down their lives, right, to prevent the soldiers from coming through. But the vast majority of people there that ended up gathering, are maybe not armed, right? So like a lot of the women that the soldiers were then told to shoot or whatever. And so I think, do we find maybe some of our cast of characters here kind of maybe near the front of what's going on? There's soldiers that have not complied with the order, right? And they turned and eventually the tide shifted, but there's probably some soldiers that are also still on that fine line, right? Like feeling like this may not be the right decision, or are unsure of what's just happened, right? So there's still a lot of tension maybe in the air, and it doesn't feel like everything is necessarily decided. Do I also say who's in the scene, or is it more like, okay? So I think definitely Louise is in the scene, and I'm gonna say Felix as well, right? So the two of them kind of front and center. I was gonna say Dominique, but it might be kind of interesting to have Camille there. Emily, do you have any specific preference?
No, yeah, I was thinking Dominique, but yeah, Camille would be really cool. I'm just not sure how exactly they would fit in.
Yeah, let's find out. I think Camille is kind of just like, has been drawn out and maybe was watching from the sidelines, but as things have progressed, wherever they fall, they'll fall.
Right.
I'll say we've also got Leonard. Oh, should we just throw everybody in, all the PCs in the scene, right? Especially this first one.
Seems to be the means where you're going, but you also,
yeah, I mean,
because
there's
you
a
have
crowd, so I'm just going to say let's just throw a bunch of somebody for everyone, right? And it's a toss-up. I'm going to say Lodoiska is here, right? Yeah.
Fantastic. And so, just so we're perfectly clear of the scene, they have just executed their commander, right? And basically, it sounds like, are we accepting this sort of like symbolic gesture from the soldiers? Is that kind of what's going on here? Like, do we say, okay, that's good enough for us?
Yeah, and I think there's still a little bit of chaos. Like, yes, like some of them, there was a big uproar about, shoot these women and anybody in our way and whatever. And I kind of want to play it as not that, there was this big tide turning and then they decided to, in a very orderly manner, shoot their captain, right? The general. Instead, it was more like he was shot, right? And so there's still like a little bit of chaos. Like nobody really necessarily knows what's going to happen next.
Who all is in the scene? Because it seems obvious to me that Josephine would have been one of the women.
Oh yeah, that's great. No, do Josephine, not Leonard. I like that.
And I mean, her husband is in the guard, right?
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Like, she could have just been like, shoot the motherfucker.
Oh.
I love it. Okay, I'm ready.
I like that. All right, so let's do that.
So I think I think I will stand up in front of, maybe you're all there and there's a crowd of other people, right? And the soldiers have just like basically attacked Josephine or whatever, right? Like, and we're kind of in the middle of that. That situation's kind of like settling down right now, right? And I go, as an aside, I go to Felix and Lodoiska, and I say, I think the commander was not enough. I think we need to make an example out of more soldiers.
I think Lodoiska doesn't even flinch. Like, you see her immediately leave that conversation and go to pull one of the especially one of the soldiers that was fighting against his the ones that were capitulating, right? So she's just heading straight for some guy to pull him by the scruff and bring him back.
And is it possible that soldier is somebody Josephine? Maybe not your other, maybe not Jean, but like another soldier that you have a connection to in some way.
I mean, Josephine is a washerwoman, right? I'm sure she washes these soldiers' uniforms. And and he's one of her customers. However, washerwomen go, uh, like she basically she cleans the regiment's garments or whatnot, and she sees in their garments as she washes them the filth of their decadence. And she just boils with everything that they represent. Even though her, I'm a little unclear because wait a minute, I'm a little unclear who the parties are, because there's the National Guard and then there's the is it there's the Imperial soldiers as well?
Technically, at this point, they are soldiers of the Republic. The National Guard was a popular militia that was a kind of jobs program during the war.
Okay.
So
this person that got pulled out, are they National Guardsmen, or are they somebody that was sent from the government? I'm just trying to get clarity.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to get my head wrapped around it too, actually. Yeah, Kat, it might be more helpful if you kind of frame up the scene a little bit more, like with the parties for us here a little bit, just because
Sure.
I don't have a full historical grasp here.
Yes, this is all going to be in the historical stuff that will come in, because I kind of wrote some of it for a presentation I did. So it'll all be there one day. It's just not in the prototype phase. So yeah, there were two. So there's a difference between the regular army, which is the professional army of the Republic, what's left of it that the Prussians didn't capture during the war. And then there's the National Guard. The National Guard citizen militia, they were not particularly well trained or armed, but there were a lot of them in Paris. And during the siege, when everyone was serving, the National Guard was about the only job that paid any money regularly. So at this point, the guns belonged to the National Guard. The regular army was sent to grab them. And the soldiers of the regular army did not open fire on the women in militia, and instead arrested and executed their own general.
Right.
So in this case, maybe Lodoiska is grabbing by the scruff a soldier which is not from the National Guard. It's a French army soldier, but he's one who's been local here, and maybe he's also seen that Josephine has been washing the clothes, and I mean, she probably gets some business from some of the French army soldiers as well that are local, right? So this is probably someone that she knows, maybe not somebody very polite.
And
or maybe not.
I turned to Felix, and I turned to Josephine, and Emily. You said you're playing Camille, or are you playing Dominique?
Yes, Camille.
I wouldn't turn to Camille, but I would turn to Felix, and I'll turn to Josephine, and I'll say, do either of you have any objections to making an example out of this soldier?
Felix has come straight from Leonard's wine shop. He's still wearing his apron. He's got a bottle in one hand. He just throws down a couple glasses and pours some wine. Louise, there'll be plenty of time for this kind of ugliness. Do you want to inaugurate the revolution with more death? Look, they've turned their back. They won't fire on their brothers. What more example do we need to make? The example we should make is to open our arms to our brothers. They have fought the Prussians, but they will not fight Frenchmen.
I walk up to Josephine and I say, Josephine, this man, pointing to the soldier that Ludovic is holding, this man was going to attack you. This man, before he was halted by his comrades, was going to shoot you in the streets.
And this is where Lodoiska actually wrenches the guy's arm behind his back and slams his head on the box where Leonard has been putting the glasses and whatever. And she says, I saw him lift the rifle, dead aimed on Josephine.
I think Josephine takes the bottle and she is silent, She holds it up as if pondering it. And shatters it on the street in front of her. And with the shards of the neck in her hand, she cuts his throat. She says, the forces of oppression have trodden our people down for generations. And every time we have a revolution, we think that we have gotten rid of them, but they keep crawling back. They keep crawling back and taking and taking and taking. Those who are weak of will in the defense of liberty are where the darkness will come from in the future.
In the background, by the way, you see Lodoiska, the throat's being cut and she's holding the head down as this guy's struggling a little bit before he dies. But she definitely pulls a pistol out from the back of her trousers and looks around to see if the other soldiers are going to protest.
I kneel down. Louise kneels down. I kneel down to Camille, who is just at hand.
I mean, I think at this point he's both like terrified of the situation because they're like 12, but also I feel like they're trying very hard to follow in Lodoista's example, because that's probably the person they know best in this situation, of kind of being very manly and brave and sort of soldierly, even though they're this little child.
Mm-hmm. Is Camille does Camille present as boy or girl, or like what would Louise say? Or no? Oh,
I've been thinking about that for the last 20 minutes. I'm not sure.
Oh, you broke up just slightly, Emily. Sorry, say that again.
Right. I'm not. I've been thinking about that, so I'm not sure. Probably, I would say he, him, but I'm not.
It's good enough for Louise.
What is it? Okay, sure.
I bend down to Camille, who's at hand, and I say to them, at this moment, you were reborn. You were reborn as a son of the revolution. Do you understand why we do this? And I'm saying this like as the soldier's blood is like pooling at our feet, right?
I mean, of course you're doing this because they threatened to hurt these women, right?
Yes, because they threatened to trot upon the common people. And I kind of turn to Felix and say, so I suspect you'll be writing a poem about the brave washerwoman and other events of this day.
Of course I'll write a poem. My life is a poet. Our lives are poems. They try and take that from us, Louise. We've talked about this. They say that our lives are not poetry. They say our lives are ugly and meaningless. But this is not true. This has never been true. But now I put it to you, citoyenne. What will you do with this baby you have birthed in so much blood and pain?
I will raise it. I will raise it. And together, you and I will sing it a lullaby. Every night, a lullaby for Paris, a lullaby for France. So that when it wakes up in the morning, it will be renewed, looking down at the blood, reinvigorated, and ready to face this bold new day.
I think there's just at least one moment where Lodoiska kind of scoffs a little and mutters poetry under her breath and hands the pistol that she has in her hand over to Camille and pulls out another one from somewhere else in her garb.
Oh God, that makes this child the most happy, the happiest one can be in a situation like this.
There's probably at least one moment where she has to like make sure she's not pointing it at the wrong, like up at somebody's face.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so do we cut scene at a point? Should I say something, or do we just let it?
That feels awful sceney to me, I think.
Okay.
But cool. So we're going to go into the actual parts, and those will all have rounds. And before we get to start, I'm just going to pull out these placards so that we can talk about them. This is slightly, God almighty. Always with the hidden draws. Here we go. So the placards. They're little historical events and trivia. They are meant to deliberately evoke the posters that the Paris Commune was liberally plastered with. About 90% of the cards that I have made for this game come from some historical source or another. I found a couple really neat archives of these. You're never required to use a placard to do anything. You can want. If you use a placard in a scene, and we all feel like we've exhausted the possibilities of that placard, then we can discard it and draw another one, and we'll refresh them at the turn of every act. In the third part, there's a slightly different and much more depressing deck that we'll use. It has horrible things that will happen. Right. So onward and upward. In this next act, Jeremy will get to go first. And we'll proceed in rounds, and let's move on to that. Part 1, The Carnival of the Oppressed, March 18th to April 2nd, 1871, in which the Commune establishes itself and begins the social revolution. The mood is optimistic, joyful, and unbridled. We don't have a Tariq, so I'll just go ahead. By evening of the 18th, the army and government had fled Paris in a disorganized retreat to the former royal palace in Versailles, 20 kilometers west of Paris. Communes sprang up: Lyon, Marseille, Toulouse. Most were quickly crushed by the Versailles government. In Algeria, a revolt began against the French colonists.
Okay. Elections were quickly held in Paris. A council of delegates, decentralized and using direct democracy, took over the government. Some people wanted to march right away for Versailles and attack before the government, before they could regroup. While we debated, the Versailles forces were already moving toward Paris.
The Commune lived up to its ideals. Overdue rents were forgiven, goods pawned at the government pawn shops, the payday lenders of the time, were reclaimed. Complete separation of church and state, a working class dream, was decreed. Everywhere there were lectures and free classes and committees for women, defense, welfare, and building barricades. Do you want me to read the bullets as well?
No, I think we've got that covered, and I am muted as always. Yeah, I already covered everything with the placards, so we can just start with Jeremy. Set us a scene, tell us who's in it, include one of your characters in it, and go from there.
I'm sorry, just so I'm clear, what are we looking at again? Or whose scene is it?
I'm sorry, it should be Jeremy to start us this turn.
And under roll,
I
roll for
apologize.
your,
I missed that.
under roll for your party, there's the the placards, right?
Oh, got it. Okay.
Now there's 3 of them. Are we only looking at the one on top? It's not a choice, right? You're using the one that's on the
No,
top?
you can use
Oh, you
any
can
of
choose.
those search. You can use any or none. You can
Got it.
use the little sense impressions at bottom or not. This is just a kind of theoretically efficient way to get some history and ideas and avoid blank page syndrome and all kinds of good stuff like that.
Awesome. Yeah, I just needed a refresh roll for your party. That's why I couldn't see what was going on.
Can I make a request? Because I am new to this, is it okay if somebody else takes over setting this scene first? So I can get a better example of somebody setting it.
Sure.
I'm
Sure,
happy
Jay,
to.
you want to go first?
Yeah. Let's see here. I'm happy to. Let's see. And so we are doing. Which one of these do I have to? Which one of these am I doing here?
You don't have to do any. If you want, you can. If you don't want to, if you have a better idea, you can use your better idea.
Okay. I just need to read them really quickly. Column.
These are great, by the way, Catherine.
Like I said, about 90% of them are based on actual posters I found.
I think I need to adjust my window so I can kind of read them a little better. Hold on. Right. Okay, and so basically when I frame my scene, I can just use some of these elements that are on the placard that I choose. Is that right?
That's correct. And if
Okay.
we feel like we've exhausted everything on those placards, then we can draw a new one.
Okay, awesome. But the scene can otherwise be about anything, right? Like the little bit of text is just sort of like background stuff, right? I want to make sure I understand.
And like I said, if you don't want to use one of them, you don't have to.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I'm just still looking at them then. 1 second. Okay. Okay, so, all right. The one I'm interested in is, and if I'm doing this wrong, just correct me, please, Kat. But the one I'm interested in is the number 12, the arrest of the prostitutes. Is that okay to pick?
Sure, absolutely.
And, as a large amount of prostitutes blocking the streets at night is demoralizing to the public. Any woman pursuing her work as a prostitute is to be arrested in the street and conducted to the prefect of police for interrogation and punishment according to the law. So, and as far as like scene requirements, one of my characters has to be in the scene, correct? Or does that matter? Yes. Okay.
No, you should have one of your characters in the scene.
Okay, and but I can put anybody else I wish. Okay. I'm going to say the scene is going to be in my bedroom, and my bedroom, and then the hallway just outside my bedroom. I'm Amanda. I'm playing Amanda, the prostitute, and Camille is going to be in the scene as well. And Camille, I think you know these arrests are taking place of the prostitutes. Okay, but the scene kind of opens with me getting ready for my shift, so to speak. I think there's like a candle lit. The sun has just gone down. There are a couple of candles lit in the room. I am at my little boudoir and mirror. I have my perfume. Camille, you can smell it. Like, you can smell this very strong, like rich scent of perfume, right? Overpowering because it has to last a long time. And I'm sitting in front of the mirror. I am tightening my corset to give myself the proper shape. I am putting rouge on my cheeks, and I have the perfume. And as I'm sitting there, I think I'm actually whistling. I don't know what it would be, but I'm whistling like a song that would be like from the old government, right? Some sort of patriotic song from before the Commune, right? As I get ready. But yeah, but I'll turn it over to you at that point.
I think, I think Camille is probably very, like, concerned, very panicked, like in the middle of this very, very private, sort of almost sensual situation. Like, he just bursts into the room, probably with the, yes, absolutely, with the gun that he was given at the riot, and just goes, mother, they're coming. They're coming.
Camille, what are you talking about? Who's coming?
The people.
I look at you through the mirror. Like, I don't turn, and I say, Camille, I know what you're doing. I know you disapprove of what I do.
But no, you have to believe me. I'm serious. The police have been coming through the district all day, looking for people like you. You have to go somewhere.
Camille, the police always do this. This is the way it's always been. They harass you a little bit. You show them a little bit of leg, be a little flirtatious, and then send them on their way.
But
Mother knows very well how to handle the police. Don't you worry.
But it's the new government. They're not. You can't believe that you know how to deal with this.
I turn, and I lean forward towards you, and I put my hands on your cheeks. And I say, you're a very, very sweet boy. I know you think that I'm out there harming myself, debasing myself. You have this sweet, tender love of a child for their mother. But it's not always going to be this way. It's just the way it is right now. And I don't love anyone more than I love you.
So I absolutely shake myself out of that grip and probably grab Amanda and try and force her out of the room somehow. Like, you have to believe me. As much as I may not agree with what you're doing, you're still my mother. And I have a duty to protect you. And you have to believe me. They're coming.
I think it might be like a good moment for Ludoviska to hear this. Maybe we start having an argument about it, right?
What's all from the other room? You hear like, what's all the racket? What's going on up there? And you hear the clomping of the shoes coming up some stairs or something in the background.
Ludowiska, my mother's not listening to reason. You have to help me.
What reason?
I've seen policemen all over town. They're coming for the prostitutes. You have to get my mother out of here.
I think there's this moment where she takes a deep breath, and I think her cheeks are a little bit flushed because she's been drinking a little bit. I want to say, so normally this would be going out to work. I'm going to say like the sun's starting to set, maybe, right?
Yeah, I think I said it was like sundown already.
Yeah, right. So, Ludowiska has just started kind of drinking, and maybe a little quickly, like you can tell. And so there's that moment of taking a breath. And she says, Camille, you have good intentions, but your mother is her own person. She can make those decisions on her own.
This has nothing to do with her job, even a little bit, in terms of whether or not I agree with it or disagree with it. She's unsafe where she is right now. You have to do something about it.
Ludowiska, is this true? Is the new government, are they harassing the prostitutes?
And I think Ludowiska is going to say, there's this part where she actually doesn't know the answer, right? She's actually not, she's been a little bit like off duty without people knowing it. So she kind of shakes her head, and she doesn't want to look like she doesn't know what she's talking about. So there's a little bit of like, that I don't think so. Maybe that was happening in another district. I haven't seen anybody out there. She just makes something up.
Let's be real. If they're going to come for anyone, they're going to come for us here first.
I just stand up and I say, to hell with this new government. This is all just a bunch of bother. You know how I feel about all of this, Ludowiska. I'm not going to make a big fuss about it right now, but just look how agitated Camille is. This is all so absurd. Camille, the police are not going to bother me. They're going to harass like they do, but they're not going to arrest anyone. And Ludowiska, if there's even a snatch of truth to this, you might want to question what we're really up to here. And then I just push my way out the door.
I think there's this moment where Ludowiska, just before maybe the scene ends or whatever, where she sees the pistol that she's given Camille, and she, is about to leave the room, kind of turns back, grabs the pistol, and then walks out of the room, as if like it's punishment for causing all this trouble.
No.
Oh. Scene.
Okay, do we feel like we've gotten all we're going to get out of the arrest the prostitutes?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I guess it's an open question of whether I do get arrested or not, I suppose. But...
To be seen.
I had this idea that Leonard, who has killed a police officer, has now become a police officer in the new government. And he's kind of an unnatural person to be a part of this revolution. He seems to get drawn into these things. I think it would be interesting if he had a situation where he has to throw the book at Amanda when he used to be her customer.
Sounds like a future scene to me.
Jeremy, are you taking the next scene? Are you going to take back the scene flag?
I have no idea how this works.
I mean, if people don't mind Jeremy, to now that he's got a sense of how this works, I'm okay with that.
Sounds like he's got an idea too.
Absolutely.
So
Right, so Jeremy,
I assume there's some sort of police station, and I think Amanda did get rounded up and taken to the police station, and maybe Camille came as well, because I mean she wasn't like rounded up or anything, but she's just like, or he's just like you know, following his mother in this stressful situation, and you know, she's been brought into some holding cell or something like that, and Leonard comes in, and he's some sort of like local constable or something like that, something where his experience of like seeing police brutality made him, he's a fairly conventional character, like he's a business owner, he's not particularly a revolutionary. When he's gotten involved before, it's been because he saw something that he thought was unjust going on to the person he knew, and he wanted to stop it. So he thought he has been kind of like shocked at the violence with which this little revolution occurred, and he kind of like wants to calm it down a little bit, and he thinks if he's like volunteers to be one of the new police officers, that he can like set things on a more straightforward footing where like real justice will be done. And
lighting thing or something, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. He wants he thinks he can calm things down and see that things get off on a real foot of justice and not like hot-headed revenge. So I don't know.
So I guess it's Amanda and Camille in the scene. Is that what we decided?
Yes.
Okay.
So she's in some sort of holding cell, and he comes in because he's supposed to arraign her or something. And he comes in and he is visibly uncomfortable with the situation.
So is it just Amanda and Camille in this room, or are there other women around?
I think that there are other women around.
Okay.
There's the whole group of them, and there's other police officers.
Leonard, if you came to spend your coin with me, I fear that I am a little bit out of sorts, indisposed at this moment.
Leonard flushes at her comment, but is taking great pains to. He's taking great pains to like try and hold on to the dignity of the situation, or at least the dignity of the office he is trying to uphold. He's like, in our new revolutionary government, we are not like the beasts who comprised the police force before. You need not fear ill treatment at our hand, but we are creating a new society here, and the old ways cannot go on as they did. The old relationships, and his eyes dart to Amanda. They cannot continue. This is a new creation that we are creating here, and we are all involved in it.
Camille, my cabbage, I'm going to teach you a new vocabulary word today. That word is hypocrisy. Do you know the word hypocrisy?
Yes.
Well, a test Would you say that someone is afflicted with hypocrisy if in their previous life they not only happily indulged in their vices, but also expressed no small amount of violence toward their new profession? Would you say that if such a person was standing before us here now, lecturing on the new ways, would you say that this person is afflicted with hypocrisy? Oh, Camille. I don't ever want you to grow up to be like this man standing here before us. Leonard, I don't care what you have to do, but you need to get me out of here now.
Leonard he's taken aback. He knew that this was going to be a difficult task to try and confront Amanda. He knows what she's like. He knows she will have her way. And he's never been able to resist her. But it's going much worse than he had hoped it would. He is very flushed, and he says, "My personal failings are immaterial to the creation of a new society. The old society has gone away, and I must give up my part in it. I too must make changes, as must you."
Leonard, now that that's out of your system, are you going to let me out of here?
I would like very much to do that, Amanda. It depends. Are you willing to make the changes that are necessary for the thriving of our new society?
The only change I'm going to make, Leonard, if you don't open this cage right now, and then I press my bosom up to the bars, the only change I'm going to make is whether or not you get to see this anymore. Fair?
Well, and his eyes dart to her before he gets them back under control again. He says, "I hope the rest of you women will be more forward-thinking. Those who will sign an affidavit or whatever, swearing to find new employment within our commune, and there is plenty of it to be had, are allowed to go without further bother. Those who do not will need to submit to some re-education."
Camille.
Mother, all he wants you to do is make a little change. Like he said, there's something in the new government for everyone. I'm sure you can find something else to do.
And I just sit down and I cross my arms and I say, "Camille, go get Ludoviska." so we can put this to rest.
What is Ludovico going to do?
Just go get Ludovica.
But no, tell me what you expect her to do.
I expect her to deal with this ridiculous man. Now go.
But fine. Then is
that could be seen.
Camille just let out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That feels like scene.
Okay. Okay. Emily's up. I drew a new card. Arrest the cowards. Former policemen who've remained in the city are accused of being spies. The commune orders their denunciation and arrest.
Who's the scene framer right now?
Emily.
Right. Okay. I mean, I'm thinking of just having something that is a continuation of the previous scene with Camille and Ludovica, and I don't know. Is there anyone else who thinks they would fit in a scene of those two trying to figure out what to do with the... Does that seem like an interesting scene to begin with?
I think there's two ways. Like, I mean, I think it could be. I think there's two ways to go. One is where, well, a bunch of ways, but one is where we see what the resolution of this last scene is. But one is where you place, Ludovica maybe and some other people in another scene where Camille is looking to find them, right?
Ooh, okay,
and so
yes.
maybe some other scene is playing out, right? And then at some point Camille shows up maybe, or not. I don't know.
Could be Louise and maybe Louise and Felix and Ludovica having revolutionary talk or something. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But whatever you think, Emily.
I mean, I have to admit, I kind of like that 39 card. It's just like nice background for whatever else is happening. I don't know if you've read it.
Oh, absolutely. Right. I think having Louise and Ludovica, and I think you said Felix, participating in this destruction of this building in Paris, I think would be interesting.
Destruction of oppression.
Uh-huh.
Felix, how many synonyms are there for explosions or for rubble?
It all depends, Louise, my dear. Are you singing an apotheosis of the fall column, or are you singing an apotheosis of the destruction that the explosion brings? For my own part, I am singing for the triumph of the people over that imperialist monster, Napoleon I. And certainly if we could drag his bloody nephew out and spit on him as well, that would be an even better ending for the day. But future days, I suppose.
So I kind of see these two in the foreground, right? And they're talking back and forth. And in the background, we see like all the, the settling dust, the plaster and dust and all that. And Ludovica is coming out of that and coughing, and she's got like you don't notice it at first, but she's holding, a piece of the statue. Maybe it's, an arm or something. And she walks up saying, You're talking nonsense again? Is that what's happening here?
I'm talking poetry, therefore I'm talking truth.
I have a poem.
Dude,
Felix pulls a pencil out from behind his ear. Please.
I cross my arms in anticipation. I can't wait.
Lodoiska takes this moment and, pulls over, some crate from not far and makes a big show of standing up on it and lifts this piece of arm and throws it on the ground, and it smashes into a couple of pieces. And she just stands there triumphantly, not saying a word.
Very eloquent. Very.
I got it.
Very musical, yes. Oh, Ludowiska. And I walk up to you and I put this on your broad shoulders and I say, you powerful, ferocious creature of the people. I like your style. But don't disparage what Felix does. Felix serves a very, very important role for our movement. Felix inspires. Felix puts the music of the common man. He makes it resonate in their hearts. Don't you see how powerful that is? Don't you understand how important that is?
I don't know. I felt a lot of resonation when I threw that down on the ground.
I mean, I'm also a Marxist guy. I mean, I'm working for that part too.
Felix.
Louis, I don't understand. You're so cynical about this whole thing. Is this not what we've been striving for so long?
That's an unfair accusation.
The commune is Forgive me, citizen. Perhaps I misunderstand your sympathy, but I know that the commune is unexpected and disorganized, yes, but socialist. And if we prove here in Paris, the capital of Europe, that socialism and the people and democracy can affect a regime, then how long will it be before the people of Manchester, of London, of Berlin, yes, Liska, even Warsaw, follow us and throw off the shackles of the imperialists?
They follow when they see something to follow, when they see signs. This poetry and these words that come out of your mouth, they're pretty, but these are just tools of the bourgeois. I don't see it.
Now I take offense to that, Ludowiska. And as Louise's student, I can tell you, I assure you, that what I do is not bourgeois. Educated, perhaps, but it is a fault of our society that makes education an attribute bourgeoisie. I believe, and I know Louise has in her moments of inspiration, moments that I was drawn to, that I have celebrated in my own poor way in verse. What we do here today is not merely topple monuments or shoot traitors to the people. What we do is create a world where, yes, even young Camille over there,
halfway through this thing,
can be a poet.
Lodowiska's eyes just start glazing over, and she turns and walks over. There's some people drinking and celebrating, and she just joins them.
Now, can this be the point where Camille just is running over in a complete chaos to Lodowiska, like Lodowiska, please, my mother's been arrested. You have to help me.
And she just has gotten this glass of wine, right? Like it's just been poured in front of her, and she looks over like, you got to be kidding! Like now? And
don't look at me like that. This is serious.
It probably takes her a second, like for those words to go through, and then she goes like, "What? and she puts it down. She said, "Arrested? What?"
The police. I told you I was right, Ludowiska. The police came through and she was arrested.
The police no longer rule this town. She walks back over to Louise and Felix and is like, Amanda's been arrested. I need to go see what needs to be done. And she's kind of like looking around to see if anyone is planning to follow or whatever.
Well, citizen,
I will let
there's
you. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Felix, take it away.
no, Louise, please go right ahead. I defer to you.
I kind of pull Felix aside, and I think I just say, Ludiska, go. This is well in hand. I pull Felix and say, cracking down on the prostitutes. Is that really necessary to achieve our great aims? I question it. I wonder.
From what I understand, there was a question of the moral of the National Guard, but more than that, the idea that a woman should have to save herself, it's undignified. There's no place for that in our commune, I don't think. I mean, obviously, as you well know, I am a firm believer in free love. I think a woman should be free to be with whoever she wishes, but to be forced to sell herself, no, we should provide for these people.
So
what is the point of the commune if we do not do this?
So it's the entrepreneurial, capitalistic aspect of her profession that bothers you. Is that what you're telling me, Felix?
I think that a man's free to give her love to whoever she wishes, but the fact that she is forced by penury and poverty to sell herself, well, no, I don't agree with that. Love should be given freely. I mean, I'm a poet. I have to believe that, I think.
Indeed. And I think I just sort of watch Ludowiska and Camille go off and march into the rubble to tear something down.
Is that scene, Emily, or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool, I loved it.
Okay, I get to go. I think we've seen so much of Felix. To be fair, he's a charming guy. He'll tell you himself.
So, quick question. So, as far as the game part is concerned, so we're in part 1. Is that right?
Yes.
And then,
Yes.
how many scenes do you do in part 1? Is it like a set number, or do you do like?
It's one for everybody.
Okay.
So we have one more scene left in this part?
Let's see. We've done Jason, Emily, Jeremy, me, and then Tomer. Yes,
Okay.
That's correct. And I think we'll take a quick break. Let's see if there's any ideas. I'm not seeing it. Okay. No, actually, that does work. Cool. Okay. So it's Leonard's wine shop, and refugees from a suburb of Paris that have been attacked by the Versailles forces are coming in, and the citizens of Montmartre are putting them up in various places, and Marguerite is helping to coordinate that. And so she is in the wine shop with Dominique. And I think that's it. I think it's just those two. Leonard's obviously off, I don't know, arresting prostitutes or something.
Okay, so it's Dominique and who? I'm sorry.
And Marguerite. Leonard's wife, the dressmaker and part-time wine shop keeper.
Great. Great.
Yeah, so
This is going to be
Dominique is
great.
helping. Yeah, this is gonna be good. So Dominique is helping to examine the women and children who are coming in, and Marguerite is serving them food and helping to coordinate where they will go. And there's a brief lull, and she sees Dominique kind of is not busy for this moment, so she just sits over and says, Dominique, Madame Doctor, would you care for something to drink? Some wine? We may have some tea somewhere. I think I can get you a pot of coffee if you like.
Just some coffee would be fine. It seems like this is going to be a long night.
Oh, is it that bad?
I mean, refugees are always bad. There's nothing good about this situation, I don't think. Even if you can find a way, even if you can find a place to put them, they're still away from their home.
I well remember when Leonard was fighting at the barricades, and they would bring the wounded back, and the people. They would do that. Yeah, they would bring the wounded back in, and those who had fled the parts of the city, and it's a bloody business. Thank goodness it's not that bad yet.
Well, I mean, with the chaos that's been going on, you never know when it's going to get worse.
I imagine this is the first time something like this has happened to you?
I mean, on such a grand scale, yes, I would say, but anytime you're a midwife or working really with any medicine in general, you see many things that you would prefer not to.
This must be such a change from where you are from. I don't know why you would leave such a beautiful sunny place and come to cold and rainy Paris.
What? You mean America?
Yes, from Martinique or wherever it is you're from. Forgive me. I'm not educated. I don't know geography.
I mean, things are as bad as things are here. Things are much worse for a woman like me in a place like that. There's really nowhere I can go but up. And I think with the way that things are going now here in Paris, this might be the place that it's best for me to be.
Well, you will always have a place here, even when Leonard's around.
And that's the point where she absolutely starts going back to work. As quickly as humanly possible.
I know. Oh, poor Marguerite. She sighs and finishes making that pot of coffee, and then just places it next to Dominique, knowing that Dominique's not even going to look up at her.
I mean, she exchanges pleasantries. Thank you at the very least. She may not be interested, but she's polite.
Oh,
So sorry.
Okay. No, that's perfect. That's scene, I think.
my heart sings for
And
you,
Tomer,
Marguerite.
thank you. Tomer, take us to the bridge.
I'm gonna say just let's do arrest the cowards. So the National Guard is calling on citizens to assist in the arrest of former policemen, thinking that they are spies. And I think in this scene, we're going to have Leonard there. And Leonard has kind of been kind of like a new policeman. And so he sits on that kind of line where people know he's not from the old guard, but, he's probably, he may be concerned that he'll be lumped in with the rest of these. And in the scene, let's see. I think it's going to be, evening. It's going to be, it's starting to get dark. A bunch of people are kind of like, you can hear commotion in the street, right? So people are kind of running this way and that, and there's a little bit of momentum behind this change, right? They don't want, this has kind of just been announced, and they don't want the police to necessarily, be prepared against retaliation. Let's put Louise in there. Let's have I'll play Jean. We haven't really seen him yet, so let's throw him in that mix. So some of the National Guard are kind of like running around and organizing this. Maybe Felix as well.
Felix.
And maybe we're, I think the three of them, so Jean, Louise, and Felix, are kind of headed toward the police station, and armed, and just in case. And Leonard is there right now. Although, you know what? Sorry, I have a slightly different idea. What if maybe Leonard's actually at the? Let's do this. Sorry, let me just pivot just a little bit. I think the three of them are headed to Leonard's wine shop, and they know that Leonard is now a police officer, and maybe they need to find out where he fits with all of this. Given his new part-time profession.
And leave us not to forget that Felix and Louise are both very aware of Louise's relationship with the police before the Commune.
Yeah.
Since they're arresting people like that.
So, Tomer, you said this. You said it was.
It was Louise
Jean.
and Felix. And I was going to have Jean in there, but now Louise just seems like so much like a better choice, given what happened before.
Yeah.
And even Camille.
And we've never really established why I was a police informant, did we? I mean, it was kind of
no.
We know the story you told Felix.
Yeah, which was it was to help the revolution, right? Is that the idea? Yeah. Okay.
Raise money.
Yeah. Okay, so
I'm actually going to play Lodoiska because I think it makes a little bit more sense given what just transpired. But I'm thinking. Do you think the wine shop is trying to close down, or is it open at this point?
I think he's probably in the process of closing down, just shutting up things, sweeping the floor.
I think actually it makes sense in that Felix is already there. He's helping to close the place down.
Yeah. They're working together.
And to be clear, we're going just to convince him of what, or to find out what again?
I think to find out where he stands as far as being. Maybe if he can actually help us with figuring out who needs to go, right? Because he's been working with the policemen, and now we're, we want to figure out if any are spies, arrest them, get them out of that position of power.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, good. And so I guess Ludovica and I come up to the door just as you're getting ready to close it, right, Leonard?
Mm-hmm.
Or Leonard? And I say,
I'm flipping the sign in the window.
What?
I'm
come in, citizens.
Surely you can stay open for a few more minutes for the red version of Montmartre and friend.
I think Felix
certainly
perks up because he's like, that's the name I gave her.
Indeed. Felix, I say as I like enter as I kind of push my way past Leonard, or push my way in, I say, Felix, as you see me now, standing here in the doorway of this tavern, draped in lantern light, weary from a day of revolution, what words rise up in your mind? Sing a song for me. Tell me about the red version of Montmartre.
Right now I'm thinking a lot about bottles of wine because Leonard had me do inventory all day. We're running low. We're running very low. Lodoiska's been drinking a lot.
Ludoviska, it would seem the muses have abandoned young Felix.
Thank God.
Well, wait, I feel some inspiration coming on.
Leonard, we are here because we need your help.
Well, certainly, citizens.
We know that you've been doing some volunteer police work.
Yes.
And we know that you've gotten to know them. And we have some suspicions that maybe there are some bad apples in that bunch. Some people who may not view too kindly our grand project, our great experiment here in Paris. Would you know of the names of any such?
Well, I assure you, I have no sympathy for the way this police department was run before, the way they trammeled over the rights and dignity of the people they were supposed to be protecting. I would never allow some of those old snakes into the department now. It's unthinkable.
Interesting. And what do you think about how the police are running now? And Ludoviska's like staring daggers at Leonard this entire time, trying to look very intimidating, and actually looking very intimidating.
and he is intimidated by her. But he's like, he kind of steps back a step, and he says, the department now it's entirely different. We have caused no, we even the arrests to which you allude, they were done in order. No harm was done to anybody. Do you think an arrest of prostitutes would have gone on so smoothly and without incident?
Without
under the
incident.
Previous regime.
And there
Well,
you
what
can see she
accusing
puts her
of?
hand back involuntarily to some firearm that's kind of hidden behind.
Yes, without incident, of course. No harm befell the women. I see
Would you
no
like me
harm in making
to
them
show
sign an
you what
affidavit.
without incident and no harm looks like?
Please.
Without saying a word, Felix just pours out a glass of wine and slides it over to Ludoviska.
In which case you actually see her kind of like slowly release her arm from behind and actually kind of reach out, and she kind of starts standing back and allows the rest of the people in the scene to try. She kind of like lets go of her anger, starts drinking, and allows Louise to kind of take control of that scene again.
Right. Ludoviska Leonard is a woman with great reservoirs of anger and emotion, and it serves our cause well. I consider myself more of a tactician. And Felix is our poet, which is also very important.
Yes, of course it's very important. Not only am I a journalist recording what is going on, but I hope that the words I write will be an inspiration to the rest of Europe. Not that they are so immortal, just that they were written by someone here. Someone has to record this, don't they?
Yes. So, Leonard, are you going to do this?
What am I being asked to do?
Out of character, we wanted to give us some names, right? Is that what we decided on?
I think so. I think that's kind of like the thrust of the scene.
Yeah.
See, I also kind of wonder, because there's that other interesting element where your character used to be a police informant.
Right.
Could there be somebody who is on the force?
Oh, who might know that?
Yeah,
that's good.
Who she used to inform to.
No, I love it.
And she wants him gone.
No, I love it.
Because she doesn't want that.
That's fantastic. Oh boy, I wish it was a player character. But maybe I think what could happen here is maybe Ludoviska and Felix pick up on how specific my request suddenly is. And like that was not originally part of the plan. So I say, I have a suspicion about one officer in particular. His name is Laurent.
I've never had any particular reason to suspect him of any reactionary sympathies.
Then you need to watch him closer.
Okay.
Oh, Laurent, that's the guy who was always stationed in front of the cafe when we used to meet at all the time. Yes. I see what you're saying, citizen. Maybe we should talk to him.
Laurent is a traitor, a mole. I'm saying this like declaratively to the whole room now, right? Laurent is a traitor, a mole for Versailles. Keep it on good word. I just need confirmation, proof of his treachery. Someone to stand before our tribunal and state the words. Someone who witnessed his treachery. Leonard.
Well, if I witnessed treachery, is there an angle you want me to investigate? Do you have any leads on information? Somebody I can ask questions? I want to serve.
The methodology is your own. And I'm certain you're going to come back with the outcome that we require. And I turn to Ludoviska and look at Ludoviska's, look at her gun and her guns and say, otherwise, Ludoviska would be very unhappy. Isn't that right?
She just turns and fingers one of the pistols, puts it away, and just kind of like nods.
I think Leonard grabs one of his own wine bottles off the rack. A little bit better vintage than he ought to be cracking open just now. And he opens it and pours himself a drink and drinks it somewhat nervously.
Nice.
And says, I will do my best.
And out of character, I think it would be fabulous if either Felix or or Ludoviska like challenges me on this later. Like, like what was that all about?
I'd like to say before the scene ends, though, that Ludoviska walks over to Leonard, and he's got this just open bottle. He's just had a glass, right? And she kind of like grabs it out of his hand, and gives him a look, but then turns and walks out the door.
Nice.
Okay, nothing terrible is going to happen here. Everything's going to be just fine. Why don't we take a quick break? So I think this turn we're going to start with Emily. But first, yes, I know, we have our homework to do. But it's okay. It'll be easy. Part 2. First defeats, last defiance. April 3rd to May 20th, 1871. In which the Commune fights the first battles of the Civil War, and paranoia increases. The mood is grim, paranoid, and falsely confident. Jean?
Okay, on April 3rd, the National Guard and many women marched out of Paris toward Versailles. Everyone was sure the army wouldn't shoot fellow citizens. The Versailles forces had quietly recaptured forts along the way. They mercilessly cut down the marchers, executing anyone who surrendered. The Commune promised to retaliate by killing hostages. The second siege of Paris had begun.
The Commune began to adapt to war. Every man between 18 and 40 years old had to serve in the National Guard. The political police hunted for treason. Searches for men who did not report for the Guard became intrusive and even violent. But when the commander called for 12,000 men to muster, fewer than 2,000 actually came.
On May 9th, Fort Issy, crucial for the defense of Paris, fell after weeks of heavy fighting. The Commune created a committee of public safety and gave it dictatorial powers. Meanwhile, the work of the Commune continued, becoming more radical, more socialist, and more egalitarian as the final showdown loomed nearer.
So I have shuffled up 3 new placards, and we are ready to go. The one change in this turn that's a little different is at most one player can die. No, one player. Hey, whoa, no. At most one character can die. So if you want to kill somebody, you can this turn.
Right.
Just real quick question about roll for party and these placards. Like, if I'm moving them around so I can read them, does that affect other people's view of them? Yeah, right? Yeah.
Sadly, yes, but
I'll wait until my turn then.
We can deal.
Yeah, I was probably moving them around too much because for some reason, until just now, they were gigantic on my screen. I couldn't figure out why they were so big. They were like really big, and then I refreshed my screen, and now they're smaller, and so I won't be fiddling with them as much as I was before. So apologies.
Oh, well, that's cool to know. Yeah, I did a refresh. Now I can read them.
yeah, just refresh your page, and you can read them much easier. So.
Yeah.
Learning thing. I've never actually used the cards and stuff on Roll for Your Party, so this is new for me.
I didn't manage to break our Roll for Your Party. I may have broken poor Shane, but
I'm also pretty new to this, like Jeremy, and I don't have a whole lot of ideas right now. So if anyone wants to suggest anything or just straight up go. Did I mute myself? Yeah, okay, cool.
I think I get to go after Emily, right? So I won't make my suggestion because I'm just going to do it on my scene. So,
Here, let me just take a quick look at some of these things.
Right now, Jason, you'd be going last turn, I think. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I see. It's kind of like
Yeah.
going in reverse now, or okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Or did I? Well, you started off last round because Jeremy
that's right.
asked us
That's
to.
right. Because Jeremy. That's right. Yeah. Okay. I personally would love to follow up with the Dominique Marguerite thing. I think that.
How so?
I don't know, but I kind of love it. Like, so there's a ball, right? So maybe
Yes.
like there's like a ball scene where like Marguerite tries to make another move, or maybe Dominique like has a change of heart, or I don't know, almost anything. But just the movie at the ball would be great.
At the Moulin de la Gayette, where Renoir painted that famous picture.
Yeah. So that's my thought.
Do you want, Emily, do you want to frame that as your scene, or?
Sure. I can do that if you guys are okay with that.
I love it. You just kind of say like where, like who's in the scene and who, kind of where you're at when it starts, I guess.
Right. It'll be Dominique and Margaret. Is there? I sort of love the idea of this first bullet point of the sound of an accordion playing a bittersweet love song, of just this very romantic music playing in the background, and I can't. I'm sure Dominique is just there for fun as a way to sort of unwind after the very stressful situation with the refugees. I'm not sure. Why do you think that Margaret would be at this ball just for?
A combination of relaxation, and they probably sold a bunch of wine to this.
All right.
Oh God, I know what she's done. Oh God, it's perfect. Let's go. Oh no, let's go. Let's go. Let's do this.
Okay. All right. Then I imagine Dominique is just sort of wandering around, socializing with any women that she knows, and sort of using it as an excuse to check up on patients who she may not have seen in a while. And I think probably from across the room or across the area, she makes eye contact that she probably thinks is a bit awkward with Marguerite, but Marguerite may not may see as more friendly.
Yes. So I think Marguerite comes walking over. She still has a sack of the clothes she's been delivering today, possibly taking some to Josephine for washing, and she just sits down next to Dominique and is listening to music. It's got to be the song called "Le Temps de Cerise," the time of cherries, which is associated with the Commune. And says, "It's so lovely to see you. Isn't this a beautiful song?"
Yes, it's lovely.
Dominique, I hope you don't think it was forward of me, but well, with Marie being in her mourning, well, I was making her a dress for her anniversary with her poor Albert, and she can't wear it because she's in mourning. I was wondering if you would like to wear it.
I think she's visibly taken aback. And I think it's very obvious that she's picking her words very carefully. And she just says, I very much appreciate the offer. I know that your work is fantastic, and I know that that dress must be one of the most beautiful things
Oh,
a
yes,
woman
yes.
could.
I have it right here.
Oh,
So she pulls it out, and it's one of those things. It's quite obvious that she's used every single trick that she's learned over her many years of sewing to make a relative lack of good fabric and trimming go to its furthest extent, and it's quite lovely. It's not so much in that it's expensive and luxurious as it's perfectly formed, and just wherever she could get by with stitching as a way to decorate it, she's used that.
mm-hmm. And out of character, is what Marguerite said accurate? Is this actually why she made this dress?
Yeah.
Or okay, all right.
Yeah, Marie is in mourning.
Right.
She can't wear a fancy dress like this.
Okay. Then, I mean, of course, I'm not surprised in the least at how absolutely gorgeous this is, but I somehow feel like it would be in bad taste for me to accept a garment that was made for someone else for such a specific situation.
Not in the slightest. I don't think.
I mean,
It's a lovely dress. It should be worn. I'll make her another dress when she comes out of her mourning, and when she meets another husband, I'll make her a dress if she ever gets out of bed.
Excuse me. You're acting very blasé towards a woman in mourning. I feel like this isn't exactly a decision you should be making.
Well, you're a physician. You must hear people say things to you all the time. I guess that's sort of like being a priest, except for the part where you're not a, filthy robber of the people. But in some ways, and it embarrasses me to say this, but in some ways, I envy Marie. Because Albert is dead, and she knows Albert is dead, and that she won't ever see him, and that is terrible, and that is sad, and I understand why she is stayed in bed all this time. I know that she is deeply saddened. But when Leonard went away, he was not dead. He was dragged into a living death, into a hell of an imperial prison. And I was not able to see him. And I was at home raising Marie. And I was trying to take in as much work as I can to raise the money to bribe some official just so that I could get a letter to my husband. And of course they read them. Of course Leonard wanted to write things back politically. And of course that just got him in more trouble. And of course that meant more bribe. Better a dead husband who might leave me a pension than that.
Oh my God, Leonard has
If
to
it-
enter
if
the
it hadn't-
scene.
I know. If it hadn't been for the kindness of women I knew, I don't know how I would have survived. I don't know how I would have kept Marie from starving. So when I see someone like you who has as much cause to complain as anyone, who is neck deep in blood and death now, I think you should have this lovely dress and enjoy it and bring some life to this world rather than this be another monument to the suffering and mourning of my family. Perhaps that is wrong. I don't know. Everything is changing nowadays. The things I thought we wanted are here, but nothing seems to be how we hoped it would be.
As difficult as I know it is, things unfortunately cannot change all at once. And I know how frustrating that must be for you with all that you've gone through. And with what you said, I can't help but wonder why. If you say that you would like me to have this because of the brave face that I put on in the face of such horrible violence and blood, I can't help but wonder why you haven't just I know this is going to sound absolutely dreadful and impolite, but why you haven't kept it for yourself? Because you say that I've had to deal with so much and I haven't complained, but I mean, you described yourself that you struggled in a similar way with your husband. I think with violence, it is cut and dry. Either people die or they don't. You can do what you can, and sometimes you can't save everyone. What you went through, I feel, must be so much more difficult because it's purely emotional. Having to deal with the police, I can't imagine having to do something like that for someone I love. And knowing that this dress was made for Marie, going through this terrible situation by you who went through such a terrible situation yourself, I feel like I have no right to accept it.
I'm too old to wear such beautiful things. My
That's,
health.
that's
No, please. Citizen doctor. I threw my life into a hole in the ground. And then I had to keep digging that hole. And at the bottom was my husband, what's left of him. I had chances at love during that time. There were two people I was very close to, and one of them I could have married had I not been encumbered. And one I would have married had it been possible. Such things are slower to change than others. I think you should take this. In fact, I insist. And whatever you choose to do with it, give it to someone if you find that my charity is too painful for you to bear. Just knowing that someone as beautiful and good as you has something beautiful that I made. Maybe the last beautiful thing I ever will. That will be enough. And then she just gets up, leaves the dress, and dashes away crying.
Oh my God.
Oh no. I mean, I guess
It's got to be
as
seen,
much as
right?
she,
Yeah.
right, but I still think that as much as she doesn't want to, Dominique has to take the dress. And I suppose that's the scene, yeah, with just Dominique holding this beautiful dress.
I have such mixed emotions about those two.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh, hey, it's me. Oh, we should probably do something with good old Felix.
So I was playing a version of the Tom de Treville in the background, and it was so good.
It's really, it's become the Dreamation, and there's still a piano there. You may find me tinkling away at midnight on it. Because I know that song. I like to play it a lot. I definitely want, yeah. Oh, that's perfect. Is Jeremy back? Because I know he's got the camera off. Hey, I think that this scene needs to be Ludovica, Leonard, and Felix at the wine shop. And Felix is bringing them there because he's trying to figure out exactly what's going on with the whole police situation, and maybe trying to suss out what's going on, with Louise's informant and various other things that he may not be. So of course he has to he knows right away that these two people think he's innocent. He'll have to deal with that shit. So yeah, Lodo and Leonard and
That's away.
Felix.
And I think on the way, like walking up to the door of the wine shop, so we haven't quite crossed the threshold yet where we expect to find Leonard, and I think Ludovica looks over at Felix, and there's a little bit of like a questioning look, like, well, should I or you? Who's running this?
Oh, well, I guess I can run it. I do have the honor of being the plenary chair of the local committee of the international.
She doesn't even wait for the rest. She just like opens the door and like kind of like gently pushes Felix into wine shop, but ahead of her.
Madam citizen, please. There's no need to be so abrupt. We have serious things. Situation is growing. I don't want to say desperate. Leonard.
Yes.
How goes the police work?
I'm sorry. The audio stumbled.
How is the police work going? Are you closer to rooting out those spies of the capitalists, imperialists in Versailles?
I've conducted inquiries. I'm afraid I haven't found anything to cause me a great deal of suspicion. If perhaps I had more information
about Laurent, the man Louise spoke of.
Yes.
Well,
sounds like you're getting a little bit too chummy with your friends there.
What do you mean? What are you hitting at?
Well, Louise said she had strong suspicions. You wouldn't You wouldn't think it would take this long to find anything. Unless maybe you don't want to find anything.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I mean, maybe you're too busy arresting, I don't know, what's this week? Little children playing at the playground?
Citizens, comrades. There's no reason to do this. We three are all, I don't want to flatter myself, but we're all revolutionaries, one way or another. Ludoviska, you fought against the Russians. Leonard, you fought against Thiers and his monsters in 48, and I am doing what I can. Perhaps not with a gun, perhaps only with words. Yes, Ludoviska, but I am a participant in this government. I try and do everything I can.
At least I know you're committed on the correct side. This gentleman, I'm not saying the word citizen. He uses the word officer in front of his name.
Leonard has suffered more than any of us for his cause. I don't think it's fair to impugn that. I would certainly... Look.
Do not talk to me about suffering, poet. I've been through a war. What have you suffered? Did your pencil break this morning?
Ludoviska, you are an inspiration to me. You are an inspiration to us all. There is no reason to doubt that you are an inspiration to us all. Therefore, comrade, there is no reason to prove it constantly either.
She takes a deep breath, and you can see she kind of got worked up like further than she wanted to, and she takes a step back and again just looks kind of like angry and imposing, but shuts her mouth.
As for what I have given up, I am tirelessly working here and on committees, and I neglect the work that I was born to do. And whether you think it is work or not that is important to you, it is work that kills me when I cannot do it. When I can do it, it doesn't matter. So
you are not on trial here. And I point over to Leonard.
Felix, talk some sense
I say this among us three.
Into our citizen friend. You know me. Have I ever ill-treated you? Have I ever been like those imperialist beasts? Of course not. I always aim to be a fair man, a just man. A man who doesn't invent accusations where he does not see cause for them.
Comrades, we are all on the same side. We are all socialists. I can't believe that in the future socialists will just spend all their time arguing with each other over pointless minutiae. I bring this up. I bring up our common connection as people who serve the cause, who are willing to die for it, because we all know that as such, our causes are full with spies, with traitors, yes, but sometimes with double agents. I'm saying, Ludoviska and Leonard, is maybe we shouldn't be looking too hard, and perhaps if Louise says that we should arrest Laurent, then we should arrest Laurent. He's an imperial police officer. He has done something.
Look. If you have such suspicions of him, let's simply remove him from a place where he can cause harm. I'm happy to find some pretext to drop him off the force.
So he can find another way to report on us? There's only one way to dispatch such a person.
We know there are conspiracies.
That is out of my power.
All we need you to do is point the way.
By fabricating evidence? What do you want me to do?
By finding evidence.
Surely
she walks over to grabs a bottle and pours herself a glass of wine to calm down.
Evidence assuredly exists. He's an imperial police officer. He has committed sins against the people. I think he should be made to no longer trouble
Here,
the
here.
peace of the commune. And if that is what we have to do, then
I am
Well-
officer of the peace of the commune. If the commune believes that this is necessary, I will enforce the will of the people.
Comrade,
I look sideways over at Felix. Is that enough to indict?
I put it to you that we are the will of the people. That if we are not willing to act and lead, then the people will blunder like sheep into the slaughter pen of Versailles.
She downs her glass of wine and slams it on the table and starts walking out and says, "To lead," and walks out the door.
Scene. Oh, poor Felix.
Felix is awesome.
Thanks. Tomer, you're up.
Okay, let's see what we got. Yeah, let's look at a different side of this. So I kind of like what's going on in 21, that card, speculation. So the commune calls out the National Guard and the police to combat price speculation in goods. Anguish sobs, blah, blah, blah. So I think, you know, we're kind of going from this interpersonal drama stuff, and we're seeing something a little bit more about what the rest of the people are facing, where maybe we're on the street, there's you know, a bunch of vendors there. This is kind of like a market, or what's kind of formed of a market in that square, the same square where you know, the army and the women faced off, you know, a while back. And now there's people trying to, you know, maybe sell some food and other stuff. You know, maybe somebody in the foreground is trying to negotiate some goods and talking about how expensive it is, and, you know, whatever. And I think in this scene, what we'll have, I want to say maybe a couple of kind of various of our folks, maybe Dominique. And I don't know if she's there to speak. I'm going to have Louise in this. Actually, let me see here. Hold on. No, you know what? Let's have Amanda in the scene, and Josephine, and Dominique. And they're maybe not specifically talking to each other initially, but maybe they're under the same issues, right? Like they're all there to get goods, and they're all there struggling with the same problem, right? Which is like, things are expensive, things are, you know, it doesn't look right, right? And I'll play Jean, which is maybe kind of also in the background there.
I think probably for me, for Amanda, I think I'd like to just probably, I think I'm just going to dictate my part of the scene. I don't think I even need any speaking parts. I'm just going to, I think the camera, we just see Amanda walking between the stalls, and walking between the stalls, and she has a pair of Camille's like shoes, and they are like a little like worn. They're like really worn on the bottom, you know, like they need to be replaced. And I'm talking, we just see me like talking to a vendor, you know, and like I'm showing him the shoes, and he's getting like the size that matches, you know, and all that stuff, and he's showing me the brand new shoes. And then like we just kind of see, you know, there's a moment where he's like, he kind of like shows the price tag or whatever, right, like how much they cost. And I just make a gesture of like oh, like sorry, you know, and I put the shoes like back in my bag, and you know, and I just leave, like, because I can't afford them.
How do we see Dominique in this scene?
I think she's definitely going around looking for like fabric that she can use for bandages and other sort of medical supplies. And it's the same sort of thing that like I sort of imagine Dominique as, you know, wanting to do the most work for the people who really need it the most, who may not necessarily be able to afford it. So she's definitely working on sort of a shoestring budget. So she's going around the entire place just looking for even anything that she can jury rig into something that will work. And you said that Jean was in the scene in the background?
Yeah.
I think she definitely notices him and goes up to him and sort of just says, "Oh, hello, Jean. How are you doing? How is your wife doing?"
And you know, you kind of catch him off guard. I think there's this moment. So just before you walk up to him, you know, he's walking by an alleyway, and there's, you know, a mother with her 2 children, and you know, the children are crying, and the mother looks despondent, and he kind of almost looks like that there's something he should do, but then he just kind of keeps walking like there's not really anything. He's holding a rifle, you know, like not in a menacing way, but just in a like I'm part of what keeps order here kind of way. And just before you walk up to him, like, you know, he reaches down and like, you know, like it looks like his stomach is in pain. But just as you walk up, he kind of, you know, like looks like he shakes it off, and he's like, "Oh, no, oh, Dominique, I'm fine. How are you this fine day?" And he says "fine day," but like there's, you know, there's the crying in the background. And
I mean, I suppose I'm as well as I can be, considering the situation. Things are tight, and I'm trying to make do with what I can. I feel like lots of people are in that situation right now. How
yeah,
is
it doesn't look great, but I hear order is being maintained.
Yes? Hearing that from who?
From some of my compatriots. And I just spoke with Louise not 2 days ago, and she assured me that you know, that our fortifications have been holding, and we should be getting more supplies soon. You know, and he kind of like looks down at what you have gathered, you know, when he says the
Like-
word supplies, and it's like
well, I suppose that's good to hear, as long as that's true. How are things going with your situation? Have you been having any more strange coughing fits or any more pain?
no more than usual. I think it's the same, you know. And
That's not
well,
good.
it hasn't gotten worse. Look, Josephine is doing great. She's starting to get, you know, bigger and you know, a little cantankerous, but otherwise, I think the baby will be healthy.
I mean, I think she was a little cantankerous from the beginning, but.
And he kind of chuckles, but the chuckle turns into like a coughing fit, right? He's like, brings up some napkin, and he's, you know, coughing into it.
All right.
I think Josephine has been trying to buy groceries. That's why you're kind of both there. You said she was in the scene, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So she's been trying to buy food for the day, and she walks up. You've been really nervous about the doctor talking to you because she was off at the stalls, and you really wanted to end that conversation before she came back.
Couple nervous
And,
looks over my shoulder.
Yeah. So she comes back, and she's just spitting mad, and she's like, "It's outrageous, the prices. You know, someone is profiting at the expense of the people. This is that old poison sneaking in again. People using the fear and the worry to exploit our new commune for their own gain. It's detestable. Something needs to be done about it."
And Jean kind of like stands up and, pushes his chest out a little bit as his coughing fit kind of subsides. And he says, let me take care of it. Point me the way.
And I think she like, I feel like she should accuse, like, are some I just accused my own character, but like I feel like she should like point to a stall where some of Leonard's wine is being pushed. I don't know if Felix would be there working the stall or what. Yeah. He's composing poetry while supposed to be. I don't know. I don't want to write people in if it's not my place, but she thinks he's charging too much for the wine.
And I think we can kind of end the scene with, we see Jean in the background, like kind of making like he's making words like, "Hey, what's going on here? What are you trying to pull?" kind of thing. You're Catherine. If you're talking, you're muted. No,
I wasn't
there we go.
actually being muted.
Okay.
That's
Okay, cool.
me in the
We're
background.
just in the background. Got it. Sorry, missed that. But and then at first it looks good, like, oh, he's taking care of business, and he starts just going into a coughing fit in the middle of it, and the scene kind of ends right there.
Mhm.
Okay, that was Tomer. Jeremy, you're up.
Sorry. Give me a minute while I look at the cards. Oh. So the other card that I see up there is an arrest.
Yes. Yes.
I think Leonard got arrested for a variety of potential offenses. Price fixing, abuse of his office, conspiracy with traitors to the commune is just part of the laundry list of offenses.
Who do you want arresting him? Or is he arrested already?
What's that? I'm
Is
sorry,
he-
you cut out.
I'm sorry. Want arresting him, or is he arrested already?
Who do you want arresting him?
I don't know. What do other people think? Who would do the arresting? I think it would be Jean.
Jean could work. Ludovico would probably love to arrest him.
I
Yeah,
like the
I
idea of
think
Ludovico personally. But...
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ludovica. Jean's
Ooh, how
probably
about-
there as well.
Would Louise be there since she was the one who sort of
It's
started
gotta
it?
be Louis.
Yeah.
It's gotta be
Oh,
Louis.
yeah.
So we're arresting you. Is this at nighttime at your place, or is this some other?
I think I'm actually at the police station. I don't think
okay.
I'm at the wine shop right now.
Okay, all right.
And at this point, do we as the National Guard kind of have control of this particular police station? Are we going to say? Have we like taken it?
Well, I think
think?
I think they think there's a conflict of you know, they think that the police are rotten now, in their opinion, and the National Guard are taking control of this. It's basically has to do with the paranoia in the city and the general militarization of things.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it's just in the course of an ordinary workday at the precinct, or whatever you would call it.
I'd like to suggest that maybe we get you into a room, like the two of us get you into a room, like some kind of room where you'd be interrogated or something like that.
Yeah.
And so it's like the classic.
Probably my own interrogation room. I'm on the wrong side of the table.
Indeed. Leonard?
Yes.
I think it's very tragic that you find yourself in these dire circumstances. But I think you're protecting the traitor Laurent.
I've told you, I harbor no traitors. I run a clean police force. I have no idea what these. I have no idea where you come up with these accusations.
And I think I show my hand here a little bit to Ludovica more than anybody. Because, and I'm curious how Ludovica would like receive this when I say this to you, Leonard, but I like say, Leonard, Laurent has committed no treachery. Laurent is probably, for all practical purposes, an honest man, completely loyal to the cause. But it doesn't change the fact that I need Laurent out of the way. So, because I need him out of the way, and because I am so important to the cause, there's really only one answer here.
And I think Lodoiska is just standing like just behind and to the right of Louise, kind of looking down at Leonard. And all that you see is just like her eyebrow kind of go up like, huh. But otherwise, she doesn't move a muscle. She still looks kind of like she's trying to look intimidating or whatever.
Leonard looks up at you, and his gaze is stony. And he said, "You've become just like them."
No. Wrong. Incorrect. The cause that I fight for freedom, for equality, for liberty, for social justice, for the elevation of the common man, those values, those things, those concepts, those ideas that Felix is so obsessed with that he writes about, that he intends to spread to all of Europe. I don't care about any of that. I care about the people of Paris. And the things I do are for the people of Paris. And sometimes, well, sometimes you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet. Every chef will tell you that.
Ludoviska's elevated eyebrow just kind of goes back down again.
Well, you may break this egg, but you will not bend me to your despicable ways.
Ludoviska?
And she walks around the table to just behind Leonard, and takes out one of her pistols and kind of cracks him against the back of the head. Not enough to cause him to go unconscious or anything like that, just to kind of like shock some sense into him. I mean, she hits him hard. And she does that first, and then kind of like looks up to Louise to see, more like that kind of thing.
After she cracks you in the head, I just yell. I just say, will you give us Laurent? Will you speak his name? Will you make the accusation? Yes or no? And
that's when she, you can hear her, get the gun ready to fire, right?
And Leonard, he says, I was in prison under the imperial swine. Do you think anything that you can do can break me? You are nothing.
I take the gun. I take the gun from Ludoviska's hand and I put it up to your head. Yes or no?
Go to hell.
I think the scene just fades to black and we hear the gunfire. We hear the shot.
Sounds about right to me.
Yeah, it's whoever. I'm not sure if we have an official scene caller or not.
You're right. I'm probably supposed to call scene. But yeah,
I don't actually know what the rule is, but I don't know. Kat, I think it's just whoever thinks it's over just kind of calls it. Right?
Yeah, it's technically the person with narrative authority, but yeah.
Okay. Right.
Okay.
Very
well, yes.
It's a consensual game, so.
Indeed. Well, I don't think it was very consensual for Leonard just then, but.
No. It was his scene, so.
Technically, he made his decision.
He made his decision. It's true. Yes, he made his decision.
Jason, you're up next.
I like the scene I want is going to be between Amanda and Ludoviska. I think I'd like for us to be in bed. This, this is going terribly, like the military, this whole situation. I mean, the city, it's all just kind of, it's on the verge of falling apart, right? We know that. And I just want to do a little bit of like pillow talk, I think, just between the two of us.
And I think at this point, like Ludoviska is probably like, a little bit higher up. Like maybe she's the one with her back to the bedpost or, the wall, and has got a cigarette in her hand. And although, you can tell she's kind of like not being fed that well, but, there's muscle there, right? Like if there was more food, she would definitely be quite a bit more, strong, but there's a little bit of emaciation going on too, right?
Yeah. I sidle up next to you and I kind of like, lean in on you a little bit. And I say, I often wonder how you and I ended up together. I wonder why I would fall in love with a woman like you.
And she's like, you've told me about your other lovers and your clients. None of them can protect you like I do. And none of them loves you like I do. All of you. There's no question. Not in my mind.
No, I know. You're right. When I see you, when I watch you out there on the streets, when I see you here in our home with Camille, every part of my being wants Camille to grow up to be like you. You make me feel safe. You make me feel like my son and I are going to survive this thing. I don't care what anyone else says. And as mad as it is, the commune has made our relationship easier. But don't you see? This is falling apart. This is not going to last. You're not going to be able to protect any of us.
There's a little bit of, you can see the muscles tense a little bit on Lodoiska, like this is not a topic she really feels like talking about.
And I'd turn your face and to look at me and I say, I know you care about your cause. I know you're inspired by Louise and Felix, I suppose.
She kind of like, rolls her eyes at the name of Felix, but yeah.
I know you just harass him because that's your way. I know you believe in your cause. I get that. And in some ways I think that this is, in another time, maybe this would be the right thing for us to do. But we are going to die here.
She shakes her head.
Know that?
She shakes her head and she's like, I think you misunderstand. It's not my cause. This is just what I know how to do. And this is where they will let me be who I am. Do you know another place where I can do this? Where I can be who I am without...
I don't care about other places. I don't care about what other people think. I don't care about... let's just go. Let's just leave. I mean, let's find somewhere out of the city. It's just the three of us. Let's just...
What? A farm? Go. With what? Where will we go?
I just see darkness on the doorstep. That's all I'm saying to you. I'm scared that my son is not going to see his 13th summer.
And she,
you know how scary that is to me.
Lodoiska, puts her arms around her and kind of like pulls her close and like caresses her hair and says, look, I get it. But I will protect you. If things get too bad, I promise you, you and Camille, you are my priority, not the cause. I'll do what needs to be done if things get bad. And she like stresses that last part, like as if it's not quite there yet, right?
Yeah. And I think I just sink into your arms, and that's good. Let's see.
Wow. We always have that scene. On we go. Part 3, The Bloody Week, May 21st through 28th, 1871, La Semaine Sanglante. The mood is frenzied, violent, and morbid. I know Jeremy's having some problems getting this up, so I'll just do it. It's cool. On May 21st, the army invaded Paris. The Communards defended the city from street barricades, but without organization, each section fighting on its own. The city burned from shelling or revenge. The Tuileries Palace, once home to the Emperor, the Hôtel de Ville, Palais Royal, are all destroyed by the flames. The army massacred anyone they thought was part of the Commune. The bourgeois of the city happily denounced their neighbors to the vengeance of the government. May 28th. The last survivors surrendered at dawn. Many were executed. Over 40,000 prisoners were imprisoned at Camp Sauterie outside Versailles. Commune was over. Okay, so I've put out the bloody deck. I'm going to draw 3 cards in a sec. I get to lead off this round. Yay. Starting with me. On your turn, decide which one of your characters is going to die during the bloody week. If you only have one character, they must survive. In this case, if Jeremy wants to narrate gory death to poor Josephine, given that we're pressed on time, I think that's totally okay. You then set a scene as normal. You can include the death of your character in the scene, or simply narrate it, or any other combination that seems like it would be interesting. If after a scene that uses a bloody week card, we feel like we've resolved it, discard and draw another one in its place. And then when we're done, we'll move on to the epilogue, where we get to make a choice about the character's fate. So with further ado, let's drop out 3 bloody week cards and take a look-see look. These are all wonderful. Okay. Cool. I think I'm just going to do a real quick scene. So, Marguerite, in a moment of surpassing irony, is denounced by people sympathetic to the Versailles forces as they move into Montmartre. And she is arrested and led out of the wine shop to face certain execution by a court martial. And as she goes out, she has one long glance at Dominique, and I'm curious as to how Dominique reacts.
I was hoping you weren't going to ask that, because I'm also curious as to how Dominique reacts. I mean, as cold as she's been towards her romantically, I feel like she still has a lot of sympathy for Marguerite, but I imagine
She show any reaction?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like she tries to follow this group that's taking her to her certain doom. But
okay, because when Marguerite sees that she's trying to follow, she just looks up at Dominique and goes, and kind of like wants her to stay away.
All right. I mean, with that and the crowds that are certainly in the streets and the people that definitely need some sort of medical help, she turns away and starts back at what she was doing, helping the wounded.
That's scene for me. So I'm great. I'm going to leave denounced out there because I'm sure plenty of people could get denounced. And Tomer, you're up.
All right. The darker part of me wants Lodoiska to die so that Jean can die another day.
have come to the darkness.
Yes. Ooh. I think hold on, let me just see. Okay, so I think what's going on is we have a scene where yeah, I think it'll just be short and quick. It's just one of those scenes with Lodoisca's out there kind of behind some rubble that has been thrown together. You can hear shots going off in the background. There are, French army soldiers are obviously moving in, and the National Guard is kind of in tatters, and there's people kind of lying dead all over the place. So there's like this last kind of last stand that's going on in this particular, on this block or whatever. And there's an artillery shell that's sitting there in the middle of the road, and the soldier next to Lodoisca is standing next to a cannon, and he's talking to the captain who's next to him, and for the National Guard, he's like, we just shot our last one, and Lodoisca like looks over at that shell and decides to run out there and grab it, and to bring it back, right? And she runs out there, and you see some pot shots being taken, and there's a couple of little pings around her, and she picks up the shell and gently, and starts making her way back, and you hear a gunshot, and you see her stumble, and the shell falls out of her hand, and you just hear a huge explosion, and that's it.
Jeremy would be next.
I'll be right back. I'm just going to say goodnight to my daughter.
Can we hold on me then for a second? Because I feel like a scene with Josephine in it would also have Jean in it.
Oh, yeah, sure. Absolutely. Jason, do you mind?
Yeah. Okay. I think we see Louise has just been dragged out of Leonard's bar where she was holed up. She's been dragged out from Leonard's bar, placed down on her knees by soldiers, and we see a man loyal to the cause, maybe Felix, in the background, just screaming over and over again until his voice goes hoarse, and it only stops when we hear the rifle report and the smoke go up, and Louise slump down.
That was grim. Emily?
All right, I think Dominique, in maybe the same general area as Lodoisca, is participating in that same sort of last stand, but more so behind the scenes, sort of maybe huddled up in a church or a restaurant or something with a bunch of other women and children and other people who can't participate in the fighting. tending to their wounds and trying to get them calmed down, and helping in any way she can. And I think I do sort of want to tie it into Lodoiska's a little bit, that that shell explodes, and she hears this, there's this just deafening sound, and then this rumbling in the building, and things start falling from the ceiling, and the building comes down on most of the people. And that's it.
Okay. Tomer? Oh wait, we did Tomer. I guess Jeremy.
Okay, I feel like while the French army soldiers are invading the city, I think Josephine is giving birth, and she's in a wrecked building. Jean is there. He has his rifle. He's trying to protect her. He's placed a pistol next to her bed because if the soldiers overwhelm him, he wants her to be able to end things on her own terms. And you know, the labor is getting hard, it's getting intense. They're both exhausted, both from the siege and the process of the labor. There's no one there with them. And you know, I think the soldiers start to come in. There's the scenes. I mean, I don't want to take too much control over Jean, but there's the scenes of him you know, firing at the oncoming soldiers until he runs out of ammunition, and then he's fighting with them hand to hand until two of them overpower him, and then you hear her shriek as she goes through the final pushing, as they're just about to stab Jean with their bayonets. And then you hear a double report and the two soldiers fall dead. and Josephine is there, blood streaming from her. The baby, fully born, and she has the pistol in her hand and aimed at the soldiers who slump over. And that's the last we know of what happens to them.
That's awesome.
Damn, girl. Okay. Camille's player reads the epilogue. So,
I sure do.
yep. Epilogue, Satari, 1871 to 1872. The Commune is not dead.
Between 10,000 and 30,000 people died during Bloody Week. No one knows the exact number. At Satari, disease and hunger killed many prisoners. Others were shot with no trial or only a perfunctory court-martial. In Algeria, the rebellion was crushed. The country was safe again for colonization. Some communards were put on trial. Most chose not to cooperate with the government forces, remaining contemptuous and defiant to their death. Many were sentenced to death. Others deported to the colonies or given hard labor. Some managed to escape into exile. In 1881, a general amnesty was announced. Some of the surviving communards returned home, and others never did.
Okay, so here's the fun bit. We need to turn hidden draws on again. For each of your surviving characters, all one of them, you need to make a decision. Do you wish to cooperate and hope for a lighter sentence? Do you try and attempt to escape in the chaos and confusion? Or do you remain defiant and hope to go to trial where you can make a final defiant stand against the forces? None of these are guaranteed to give you what you want. There is one attempt escape card that is you get away scot-free. That's the only one. There are some where, you try and be defiant, but it's okay. And there's others where you cooperate, but they shoot you anyway because life is random. So you get to make that decision and then draw it, keep it hidden, and look at what's on it, because there are some effects there. Some of the things about your characters, like if you were Freemason or in the International, may affect the results. And there are a couple that interact with other players, so it's better to hold on to it until everyone's had a chance to go. And gosh, this is a hard decision for poor Felix. I'm not really sure which one he's going to pull.
So, sorry, we pull 2 from Bloody Week or 1?
No, just you might want to refresh the room.
Oh, refresh the room.
Put 3. Yep, I got 3 new decks out there. There's Attempt Escape, Remain Defiant, and
got it.
Great. Sorry, my bad. I should have mentioned that at the start.
Do we go in a specific order? Do you want me to just go?
Yeah, I think you can just go. I'm gonna just.
Okay, I think Jean is going to try to cooperate. I think he's just going to say, do I pull first or do I narrate and then pull to see results?
You pull and take a look at what's on the back first, and then you narrate.
2 of them, right?
Just 1.
Oh, just 1.
Yeah, sorry, man.
Just 1.
You only get 1 fate.
Good choice. Okay. Woo. So with Jean, what he does is so it says the prosecutor hears your testimony and offers you a lighter sentence, but only if you testify against someone. Pick another character, one who has gone or one who hasn't gone yet. If you testify, you're set free, but your comrades know you betrayed them. If you stay quiet, you share whatever the fate of the other character is. Jean is going to testify against, let's see, who's still alive here? Felix is still there, right?
Yes, he is.
He's going to testify against Felix. He doesn't, he knows him more from a distance. And he knows that Felix doesn't have a child to look after. So he figures it's just, it's what he has to do to make sure that his family is able to survive, period. And he knows he's not going to be there for much longer. So what he does is he says, we were just citizens in the area. We had to do what we had to do to make sure we weren't, killed by the Communards. And he makes it out as if they, had martial law and were, all that kind of stuff. And it sounds like the judge sounds kind of sympathetic, when he points at his wife and child, and we had to do just what to do to survive.
I'm curious, what does the card say happens to the person you testify against?
Actually, it just says if you testify, you are set free, but your comrades know you betrayed them, and then that's it. It doesn't.
Okay, this is perfect then, because I think just go, because this makes sense. So yeah, you did testify, you denounced me, but fortunately for Felix, since he was in the International, a bunch of his friends were able to get him out of Paris in the confusion, and for months he was transported from house to house among his friends until finally he was arrested. And he serves a few years in prison, knowing that Jean denounced him, but I think he kind of doesn't care because once in prison, he's a bit of a celebrity and finally has the respect of people around him because he's a ironbound communard, right? And the poem he's been writing, "The Black Angel of Vengeance," about Louise Michel, actually becomes fairly well received. I mean, nowadays it's only looked on with favor by academics, but for a brief period of time in the 1880s, it was well regarded. He got a note from Victor Hugo saying that, yeah, he remembered Louise Michel well, and he admired the poem very much, which he keeps for the rest of his life, which is spent mostly in poverty and working on socialism.
I will say this, Jean during the trial is coughing into a napkin, and of course there's blood in it. And so however long Felix is in prison, John's dead well before he ever gets out.
That certainly makes it easier to forgive him. Okay, who's next?
Can anybody go? Or?
Sure, come as you will. Sauf keeper.
Amanda, in shock about Ludovica's death and scared, attempts to cooperate, and she does cooperate by basically earning her living with a lot of the soldiers. She becomes just a regular feature of certain barracks and things, right? That's how she's going to get through this for her and Camille. And I think that she propositions to one of her clients, a young soldier, or let's say an older soldier, that she, would like, she would maybe like to leave this life and maybe, make a home with him, and maybe he could be a great role model for her son and that kind of thing. And in just a fit of rage at the mere suggestion that he would ever do anything more than just fuck a traitor communard, makes him really angry, and he shoots her. And the card says, how does this affect the rest of the communards? But I don't think it affects them at all. I don't think anyone knows about Amanda's, apart from Camille. No one knows. I mean, Amanda's name is not recorded in history, let's say. So. Dies in complete ignominy. You're muted, Kat.
Someone gets to follow that.
So Josephine is disgusted by her husband's traitorous betrayal of the commune. She, with him is in court, and it just, she's like, once he gives his testimony, it's like it's like she's almost not there anymore. She's just transported, and she remains defiant on the witness stand. You know, tells the whole court that she does not even acknowledge their right to hold court over her. And she has nothing now but the memory of the commune and her child. Her husband is dead to her. And she gets sentenced to 10 years hard labor, which, if it cools her, explosive nature, definitely hardens it into a cold hatred of everything that the imperialist bastards stand for. And there's some questions on there about who's happy to see when her sentence is commuted after 10 years. Not her husband, because he's definitely dead by then. I don't think her child even knows who she is. So I don't know if she has anybody left at the end of it. And
There's Felix, I guess.
I don't know if she has a whole lot of respect for Felix, but yeah, I think she's just you know, she just thinks that the commune was was an attempt at something noble, but the entire world is shit and just wants to drag you down.
Okay, good news for us, Emily.
I mean, in a sense of the word. I was really hoping that Amanda would make a different choice. I think in the confusion after that last battle, Camille having knowing what his mother thought about the commune and maybe having overheard one of those conversations like the one we heard with Amanda and Yudoiska, thought, oh, of course, my mother will want to leave. So he attempted to leave Paris, and because he's just a 12-year-old child and only had like the very smallest connection to the commune, he made it into exile. Presumably by himself. One of the questions is who helps you in your new home. I think there are probably some soldiers who were in some sort of like fraternal relationship with Ladoisa, who are also able to make it into exile, who are able to help him once he left and find work on, I don't know, a farm or something. He's a young boy. And I don't know. The last question is, do you ever return to France? And I imagine if he did, he wouldn't have anything good waiting for him, considering what happened to Amanda. So that aside, I'm not sure he did, just because he was able to find himself a relatively happy life outside of France. And I'm sure he was terrified of what would happen if he went back.
Yay! I'm glad we got something good at the end.
I mean, you can say that.
It was drenched in misery. I mean, that was as good as we could have hoped for, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a story with a great, very happy ending.
Indeed not.
That was Red Carnations on a Black Grave.